And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, August 9th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by the strip club veteran himself, Adam Scher, and we are brought to you by Odds Shopper. 14 games going on today. We have a massive slate of high-end pitching. We've got a hitting slate that's basically a bunch of giant question marks surrounded by the St. Louis Cardinals. It's a lot to break down. Things look a little bit different than they did earlier this morning. So if you watch the strategy show, one, thank you. Two, get ready because we're about to do it again. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, what's good? How was your Tuesday so far?
It was good. Opened a bunch of Rainmakers packs. They mostly sucked, but I got a couple of good pulls, got a couple of best ball drafts done, and ready to talk baseball again.
Yeah, you guys have been irritating me with a just wealth of messages over and over and over again about this stuff. And I am starting to get at least a little bit of FOMO, not because I want to play Rainmakers in any way. I hate football and I have no interest. But I really do want to open packs because that's just fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing earlier. The more I think about the actual game, I'm a little concerned that by the time we get to, Sunday morning rolling around, I'm just not going to want to put the time or effort into figuring out how to play this new game. But I also really like opening packs, so I just keep doing it, even though I don't really know if I'm going to play.
Do you have any interest in opening like real packs of cards ever?
No. I mean, yeah, I guess like sometimes I'll have like I guess nostalgia, like, oh, I miss opening cards. But like the issue then is like, then I just have cards that I have to do something with them and I have no use for them.
Right. You don't have to send it off to get graded and whatever the hell else you'll need to do at that point in time. I didn't know if you had gotten that itch at all lately to just bust. The problem really is that to bust baseball packs, like if you wanted to do baseball, which is like the sort of traditional card, you're not pulling guys that you like. You're basically going to be looking for Orioles prospects or maybe like a top 5 type prospect, but you're pulling autograph. Like you're ultimately going to be pulling autographs for guys that are, 4 years away from the league and hoping that they're good.
Yeah.
Or a rookie, like you're getting like Rutschman's first major league card.
Right. The main reason I didn't get into it, like a lot of people got into it during COVID, but I didn't because of the grading thing. I was like, I don't want to, like, if I get a good card, then I have to deal with the whole process that from everything I've heard is a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah. It's not fun. It's not fun. That's all I got on cards for right now. I wish that I would have went a little bit harder when I first got back into it. I had a buddy that I worked with when I was at the credit union that was very big into cards, even still. And I started buying a bunch of boxes. It's probably like 2011, 2012 in that area. And I wish I would have just like aggressively kept up that push. Probably would have been a decent content site too, at least for a couple years. You ready to talk these games?
Yep.
14 of them on deck for us today. I'm still pulling up chat right now. I didn't realize that I didn't do that, but I mean, what could possibly be in here right now? Willie K says just buy already graded cards. Well, that's more expensive.
Yeah, you're paying what they're
it's
worth.
Also that's also a very different gimmick. Like the appeal is busting the pack and you lose out on
the fun. It's the lotto aspect of it.
Yeah, of course. All right, let's do this. Orioles and Blue Jays. Orioles have a 3.8 run implied total. The Blue Jays have a 4.8 run implied total. Kyle Bradish and Alek Manoah. We've seen no change to Manoah's ownership, and based on everything that I've seen around the industry, I don't get the sense that that's going to be moving all that much higher. He is my favorite pitcher relative to public ownership today. He's the guy that I'm going to be clearly most over the field on relative to the public. How are you seeing Manoah now after a couple hours of additional information?
I think he's still pretty much what, the way we had described him this morning. He's a good pitcher, but he's not on the same level in terms of talent as the guys ahead of him on this slate. And there are just a lot of other good pitchers on the slate. So I don't think he projects as well as those guys. And he's going to be he's going to be more difficult to get to. And that's reflected in the fact that he's just not really pulling ownership here. But at the same time, you can still use him. Like there's most of the offenses that I like are popular. And so it's a slate where I think maybe I do end up just mixing in lower owned pitchers, even if they don't project quite as well, to try and be different that way. And Manoah does get that done. I still also just think he comes in higher than 0.8%. Like I think you get 2, 3, 4% on him.
Yeah.
I think he was in my optimal 4.5% of the time. So I think ownership probably comes in closer to there, but the point still stands where, if I have a lineup where I don't need to worry about ownership, it's going to be really difficult to get to Manoah. But if I do need to sacrifice some ownership at pitcher because I played, the Cardinals and Braves or something like that, you are still getting a good pitcher, 22.5% strikeout percentage this year, 3.91 xFIP. He's a solid arm.
Yeah. And that's basically why I'm getting to him. Given the amount of Cardinals that I'm getting to, he naturally becomes a more interesting piece for me to try and be a little bit more different than just jamming the Cardinals and then going to Carrasco, who I certainly like and I'm still getting to, but he would be the guy that's also pulling that ownership where it makes it a little bit more difficult. We're not going to talk about Kyle Bradish. That much I know. So let's talk a little bit about the Blue Jays. 4th in our top stack tool, 3rd in aggregate ownership. But most of that ownership is going to Kirk, 4,400. You get a catcher. And then 10% ownership to Gurriel in the leadoff spot. At least I believe that's the leadoff spot. I'm not entirely sure if this Blue Jays lineup is official yet or not. You'll probably be able to tell me when you start. How do you feel about Toronto?
Yeah, so it is official. Gurriel is leading off at 4K. I think the Blue Jays look pretty good here. It's disgusting in Baltimore in terms of just heat and humidity. I went out on the balcony to do best ball drafts. I was like, oh, it's sunny out. Like, I'll just sit outside. There's usually a nice breeze, and it's not usually that hot on the balcony. It's still just miserable. So ball should be carrying, and there is a threat of thunderstorms as well. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But it should be good hitting weather here. Bradish really hasn't been bad outside of home runs this year. 22.8% strikeout percentage is solid. 3.88 xFIP is pretty good, but 1.92 home runs per 9. Right-handed hitters against Bradish, a 245 expected ISO this year, 397 expected WOBA. Really has had trouble with right-handed hitters, and you're just getting a Toronto lineup that's full of right-handed power. So that certainly looks good. The only sort of downside is that there is a Coors Field slate with a free St. Louis team. You have the Braves in a good spot. You have the Mets in a good spot. So they do certainly have some competition.
I was a little surprised. This is a team that I normally just immediately get to. And right now, based on aggregate ownership, they're my 3rd biggest fade. And I didn't really see that coming at all. Just the way that I make lineups, the way that I normally see this, I just kind of usually have the Blue Jays by default. And today does not appear to be that day. I actually have more of the Orioles than I do the Blue Jays, although I don't exactly have a lot of either side of this one. How do you feel about Baltimore?
I think it's pretty tough to get to them on a slate of this size against Manoah. It's just a good pitcher that I'm not looking to go out of my way to target. And while you do have cheap price tags on Mountcastle, Vavra, and Hayes, the top of the order, Mullins, Rutschman, and Santander, I think are pretty much correctly priced. So I think it's just tough to get to them. I think they're going under-owned, but it's still a low probability team. We have them, with a 2% chance of being the top stack and 1% ownership. So, it's just going to be a difficult one to prioritize.
I'm surprised that I even got a little of the Orioles. Like, this game is just the opposite. I never get to the Orioles. They're always the team that I'm just very clearly under the field on. And now today I'm getting to some Orioles stacks and I'm not getting to the Blue Jays. So
you said you're getting to the Orioles today?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
more than the field at this
Yeah, point. I think that's reasonable. It's just going to be tough for them to be a priority for me.
Yeah. 5% of my either 5-man or 4-man stacks are Orioles as of right now. So that's what I got. Nothing crazy, but they are there. And it would feel a lot better if Manoah was grabbing some ownership, but he is not. I got nothing else here. Cash lineups. I guess Kirk could be in that discussion, but don't know if that's going to be the way that we're going. It's probably Molina at 2,200, but
yeah, I'll say. I mean, in the early lineups I built, it was Molina, but Kirk is a good play.
Yeah, that's certainly if you're going to upgrade somewhere, I don't mind upgrading from Molina to Kirk from a catcher.
Yeah, I didn't have any Toronto in the initial cash lineup I built, but it's not so much about not liking the Toronto bats as it is that the Cardinals pricing is just broken. And then you have Ronald Acuna, who's underpriced. You have Austin Riley at third base. So it kind of just makes itself.
Yep. Phillies and Marlins, 4.5 run implied total for the Phillies, 3 for the Marlins. Zach Wheeler going for Philadelphia, Braxton Garrett going for the Marlins. I do have a more realistic Phillies lineup in now. By more realistic, I mean the actual lineup, but Still doesn't look very good to me. Still relatively high in strikeouts. I'm not getting to nearly as much Garrett as I was expecting. I do have 5% at this moment. The bigger question for me to you is going to be, what do you want to do with Zach Wheeler? 21% owned at this moment. A guy that I'm not getting to as much as the field here.
I think he looks good. I have the same projection on him as I do Garrett Cole, and we have Cole getting a little bit more ownership. So in tournaments, I think there's a pretty good chance that I end up just kind of leaning towards Wheeler a little bit more. But I think, they're obviously very, very close. The ownership gap isn't that big. It's a good spot for Wheeler. I did mention him specifically on FanDuel in my tournament plays video because the gap between him and Ohtani and ownership on FanDuel, I think, is a little bit bigger than it should be. But on DraftKings, he looks good as well. Miami's active roster right now, 88 WRC plus, 21.3% strikeout percentage, just missing some bats, guys being hurt. So it sets up as a pretty good spot for Wheeler. And he's somebody that we know has a pretty long leash as well.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by everything that I have here because inevitably we're going to have to make some concessions, whether it's Cole, Wheeler, Ohtani, Bieber. We've got these guys pulling a bunch of ownership. We've got other options at the top. Musgrove, probably not Freddie Peralta, but Luis Castillo, Urias. I've already talked about Manoah. Someone is eventually, I assume, at least for you, going to get a haircut. Do you see who that's going to be yet? One of these guys that are pulling ownership?
My best guess would be maybe Ohtani, but I also think he's the best option, so I'm not really confident in that answer either.
Like my answer is Wheeler right now, but I'm not trying to steer anybody off of him. It just so happens in the builds that I'm making, he's the guy that ends up losing the exposure to some of these other guys at the top.
Looking at my stuff right now, I do actually think it could be Ohtani, and I don't feel great about that, but the projection that he has relative to Cole and Wheeler, they're just close enough where I guess I'm just a little bit lower on Ohtani than our top pitchers tool, and as a result, if you look at the top pitchers tool, I think Ohtani looks great given the gap between him, Cole, and Wheeler. I just have it a little bit lower, and obviously that ownership is higher on Ohtani. So I'm kind of hoping it's not the case, but right now my guess is that Ohtani's the one getting a little bit of a haircut.
Yeah, none of these things feel really I don't want to be light on any of them. I just don't have a choice. Right. Avoiding high end pitching talent is never going to feel great. So anxious to see it as we move a little bit further. But yeah, I have 8% Wheeler as of right now. We'll see what that ends up looking like as we get to lock. We can talk bats here because unless you have anything extra that you would like to add on Braxton Garrett.
No, he's a solid pitcher. It's just a pretty difficult spot. Park downgrade for him. He does have the fifth highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 27%. 3.17 xFIP is good. That being said, it's just not a slate where I anticipate getting them.
Yeah, the 5% that I have right now, I'm happy with, and I think that's a pretty reasonable amount to have at this point. All right, just finished off an updated crunch, so let's see if that tells any sort of a different story. Slightly does, at least not from a pitching perspective. Phillies bats, 9th in top stack, 8th in aggregate ownership, which I should also grab the new stuff. Do you see Philly as viable?
Yes and no. I think that there are some decent value bats here. Schwarber, obviously not one of them from a value standpoint. He's just really good. But Hoskins at 4,400, Alec Boehm at 4,100, Castellanos and Segura are relatively inexpensive. Vierling's cheap. The problem, though, is just how good the Cardinals look, how good teams like Atlanta and the Mets look. You just sort of get Philadelphia coming in as a middle-of-the-road stack. They're getting some ownership right now, 6% projected ownership, 3.5% chance of being the top stack. And like I said before, Garrett's a solid pitcher. So I don't think I get to much.
Yeah, I basically don't have them. 2 random Vierling lineups and a random Rhys Hoskins lineup. That's the extent of it for me. And I don't really have the Marlins on the opposite side either. While I may not be getting to Zach Wheeler, I don't really have interest in attacking him either.
No, neither do I.
Good. Staying in the NL East, Mets and Reds, 5.5 run implied total for the Mets, 3.1 for the Reds. God, they're so bad. Carlos Carrasco going for New York. Mike Minor going for Cincinnati. No ownership going to Minor, nor should it. Carrasco, on the other hand, mid-tier in price, 20% owned right now, and I think that makes perfect sense. I've got a little bit more than that, and I can't complain about it because the Reds are just awful.
Yeah, they are not good, and Carrasco's price tag is very reasonable at 8,200. So while he's not the same level of strikeout pitcher as other guys that we're going to get to, still a 23% strikeout percentage, 3.5 xFIP, facing a Reds lineup that is really bad, and you're just saving $2,000, more than $2,000 off of the guys like Ohtani, Wheeler, and Cole when you go to Carrasco. So I think the ownership on him makes sense. We have him projected at about 20.5%. He was in my optimal like 17 to 18% of the time. So don't really have any issues at all with the ownership.
Yeah, I got 26% right now. Totally happy with it. Just looks good. It's as safe as things can be when you're facing the Cincinnati Reds. We don't have to talk about minor. Let's talk about the Mets. Third in our top stack tool, fifth in aggregate ownership. A lot of that ownership going to Darren Ruff, mostly because of his price. How are you feeling about the Mets here? Because I've got a bit more than the field.
Yeah, pretty neutral. Their ownership has come up since this morning. I'm looking at FanDuel again. I do that like every other day. Their FanDuel ownership's up to 8.5%. On DraftKings, they're still at 5.5%. But this is a team where, we did kind of talk about it this morning. They, as a whole, aren't that expensive, but Marte, Lindor, and Alonso are all expensive. So it does make it a little bit more difficult to get to the parts of that stack that I think you would want to, especially when you start comparing them to a team like St. Louis. So we have them projected around 5% ownership, 7.5% chance of being the top scoring stack. But for me, when I factored in the value aspect, it kind of just pulled them down to like 5.5%. So I think, kind of just coming in right around the field for me.
Okay.
I do like that Mark Canha's leading off. 3,500 for him is certainly a good price tag.
Absolutely. Pulling a little bit of ownership at 10%, but completely warranted based on that price, based on where he's hitting in the order. I'm a little heavier on like the Marte, Lindor, Alonso trio. You've got to pay for it, obviously. But if they're going to be 7, 3, and 6% owned, I'm not super mad about it. Worthwhile shot to take, I think. I'm not getting some of the garbage in the line, or like the more garbage type guys in the lineup. So
yeah, I mean, and you do have some guys you can use to offset some of that salary. Like Darren Ruff has first base and outfield eligibility at 3K. He's a pretty big pinch hit risk later in the game, but 3K has some power in a good spot. Eduardo Escobar at 3,900 looks pretty good, but it's still just like when you talk about the Mets lineup, you want Marte, Lindor, and Alonso in there pretty badly, and that's allocating quite a bit of money there.
Reds bets?
No. You do have Jonathan India in the lineup, but no Mike Moustakas, so the lineup's even a little bit weaker than we would have expected. Carrasco's had a little bit of issues with left-handed power this year. 193 expected ISO to lefties, only 120 to righties, but there's just not much you can do to take advantage of that with this lineup. You have Joey Votto, you have Jake Fraley. Those are the only two lefties in this lineup. So it's really just impossible for me to point to somebody from the Reds and say like, oh yeah, this guy is likely to get to Carrasco.
Anything else in this one?
To be fair, I don't know how Joey Votto hits on Tuesdays, but
I mean, that's just...
No, nothing else.
You think that's a troll, or you think that's real?
I have no idea. I mostly just feel bad for the people that are responding saying, is that true? Like, they're trying to, like, gain information from this.
Oh, I saw it before. I laughed immediately when the first one came in pretty aggressively. By the way, Chuck, thanks for the super chat. I didn't see anything else from you, but appreciate the super chat nonetheless. Yeah, that's like, I'm not going to take Francisco Lindor because the moon is waxing tonight or something stupid. I don't even know what that means, but I know that that's a thing. Anyway, schedule for the rest of the night should be pretty easy for you guys to figure out. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next, 6 to 7, taking you straight up to 7:05. We do have free content today, 2 different pieces of it. One for this show, MLB Top Stacks is free. We will talk about it through this entire show. And it's pretty important once you get past the Cardinals, which I think everybody in the world agrees is the best stack today. If you don't, you shouldn't be playing MLB DFS. PGA rankings also free. We got the FedEx St. Jude coming up on Thursday. So if you want to take an early look, you can take a peek at our rankings. Tigers and Guardians. 3-run implied total for the Tigers, 4.2 for the Guardians. Tyler Alexander and Shane Bieber. No ownership going to Alexander. 21% going to Bieber, who is at this moment my most exposed pitcher, 9,400 in a tasty matchup against Detroit.
Yeah, he looks good. You're getting $1,000 discount off of those top tier guys. You don't have quite the same strikeout percentage for Bieber so far this year, but still 25%. 3.13 xFIP is excellent. Matchup against the Tigers is really good. He actually has a higher strikeout percentage against lefties than righties this year. 28.4% to lefties, 22.6 to righties. 6 left-handed bats in the lineup for the Tigers, so that's not even a negative here for Bieber. He looks really good. Like, it's kind of going to be a repeating theme throughout the show that popular pitchers look good because there's just a lot of them on this slate, but Bieber certainly one of them, and that discount in salary is pretty appealing.
Yeah, that's everything for me. Just the simple fact that he's $1,000 cheaper than Wheeler, $900 cheaper than Ohtani, $1,100 cheaper than Cole, and he's got, I don't know what, the second best matchup on the slate, the best matchup on the slate. I mean, we can quibble, but certainly as good of a matchup as it could possibly be. I've got the aggregate ISO for the Tigers today at 138, which I didn't even think would be possible for a team. They got 2 guys under 100 in Steamer.
Their active rosters, WRC Plus this year is 113.
That's really so. That's more credit,
yeah,
based on their real stats. So this feels fantastic for Shane Bieber. I would be shocked if he's not my most exposed pitcher. I hope that his ownership stays in the 20s so that I could actually get a little bit more.
So I will say I do have him going more over-owned than Cole and Wheeler, even factoring in the salary. Okay. But it's not by like a big margin. It's kind of just all of those guys, Bieber, Wheeler, Cole, Ohtani, Carrasco, were all ending up in optimal lineups for me between like 17 and 19% of the time.
Okay.
So whichever of them is getting the most ownership is just naturally going to look the most over-owned.
Yeah. Like right now I have Bieber projected better than Wheeler. So like I'm just always going to get more Bieber.
I have Wheeler by 1.5.
Okay. Similarly, I have Bieber ahead of Cole, which I think is probably a difference of opinions across the board too.
Yeah, I mean I have Cole and Wheeler the same. So
yeah. I've got Bieber second behind Ohtani.
Yeah, I have him fourth behind those 3.
And these are all marginal differences too. Like all of these guys that we're naming are 20 plus fantasy point guys today. So I prefer I like the difference that it's giving me. Like I'm happy when I look at my exposures. I'm like, okay, Bieber is the guy that I would want to get.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, we're talking about differences in projection that are not super meaningful when you're talking about tournaments.
Right.
Like if any of these guys were just like not getting ownership, you would just be jamming them in as much as you could.
Absolutely.
To answer Ryan Henderson's question, last year, 33.1% strikeout percentage for Bieber in his 16 starts. 2019 was 30.2%. 2020 was 41% in 12 starts. I did actually want to look because I know he started out slowly this year. Just eyeballing it seems like the strikeouts have been up recently, but I didn't actually go back and check that. No, even last 30 days, 25.2% strikeout percentage.
Okay. Steamer's got him at 26, so I actually feel even better about that. If it would have been like 31 or something when I opened it up and you were talking about how it's in the mid-20s, that would have like given me a little bit of pause. So I feel a little bit better. Let's talk Guardians bats. 9th in our top stack tool, 9th in ownership. I'm just not getting there. Like, I don't think Tyler Alexander is bad. And that's sort of just like enough to not get to Cleveland for me.
It's also just having other teams that I think look a little bit better. I certainly don't think Tyler Alexander is good. He has a 205 expected ISO to righties this year, but he's also probably only giving you like 3-4 innings, something like that. Jose Ramirez is always going to look good. Rosario looks fine. I do like a 3K Oscar Gonzalez, but after that, I kind of just like run out of guys that I can say that I like here. You also have Josh Naylor and Owen Miller hitting 5-6 at the same position, so that makes things a little bit difficult as well. But yeah, it's a team that I think I'm just likely to get to like 2-mans and 3-mans more frequently than full stacks. But again, I do like Oscar Gonzalez. Rosario looks fine, and Ramirez always looks good.
I also do not have the Tigers and certainly have no interest.
Yeah, I don't have any sort of case I can make for the Tigers.
Red Sox, 4.3 run implied total. Braves, 5.2. Rich Hill on the hill for Boston. Charlie Morton going for Atlanta. No ownership going to Hill, and I don't get the sense we're talking about him. Morton, 8,500. I had a bit more of him earlier today than I do right now. I don't think that I'm going to get to a lot of Morton. Are you seeing him as the guy that you're going to get to at basically no ownership?
I don't think I get to a lot. He looks pretty similar to Manoah for me. I do have him projected a little bit behind Manoah, actually. But like the case that you would make for Morton is that he has the fourth highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 27.2%. 3.72 xFIP is fine. Price tag is reasonable. The matchup against Boston is okay. Devers, Bogarts, Martinez are all good. Verdugo is cheap, but it's not like this lineup top to bottom is all that good. They still have a 4.3 implied run total, and they're still just pitchers in much better matchups that are also more talented than Morton. So it's more so somebody that just ends up in individual lineups where I have popular hitters more so than somebody that I'm going out of my way to get to.
Yeah, I have 4.5% right now. I know that I'm going to have some sort of like small trickle of Morton, but it's not going to be the volume that I was sort of expecting earlier today.
Same.
Number 2 in top stack, number 2 in ownership, that would be the Atlanta Braves. A large chunk of that ownership going to Acuna, which everybody should expect. But Swanson, Riley, Contreras, Grossman, all in the 10 to 15% range. I can't say anything negative here about the Braves. I am getting there. I'm a little bit over or under the field in the aggregate, but I am getting basically every sort of combination of the Braves that I can find right now, just not getting to the same amount as the field.
Yeah, I think the Braves look good for a few different reasons. As a whole, like you have Acuna, Riley, Olsen that are all 5K or more, but 5,100 for Acuna is an underpricing. 5,300 for Riley is a little cheap as well. They both look really good, cash games, tournaments, whatever. Dansby Swanson's down to 4,800, but then you also get a good hitting catcher in William Contreras at 4,300, which actually is even more valuable now than it was when this show started because Yadier Molina is not in the lineup for the Cardinals. So you lose that $2,200 catcher in Coors. You do have a $2,500 Andrew Kisner, but I don't think that's quite as appealing as Yachty. So, catcher just becomes a little bit more open there. You have a 2K flat Robbie Grossman, 3,300 for Ozuna, back below 3K for Garcia. So it's just a lineup where like there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. And it also covers some of your weaker positions because you have Swanson at short, you have Contreras at catcher, you have a 2K outfielder in Grossman. So there's just a lot of different ways you can go with this team. And I think it's going to make them look really good.
Yeah, Acuna and Riley, two guys that I have the most here for Atlanta. I'm not mad about that at all. I'm just sort of happy to be with the field here just because they're that good. Do you want to get to Boston against Charlie Morton?
Not particularly. It goes without saying that Rafael Devers is always playable, but he's also 6,200, so you're paying a premium there. Verdugo's cheap, but not anything I'm really going out of my way to target here. I do think Morton's a good pitcher. I don't anticipate getting to a lot of Boston. 184 expected ISO to lefties for Morton this year, 121 to righties. So again, you're probably going to be more interested in left-handed bats, which basically gives you Devers and Verdugo, and then some ground balls to first base from Eric Hosmer. But pretty tough team to get excited about against Morton, I think.
Yeah, I basically don't have them, and I'm totally cool with that. So go Braves. Go Braves. Then we go to Chicago. The Cubs, 4.4 run implied total. Nats, 3.2. Marcus Stroman and Paulo Espino. No ownership going to Espino. Marcus Stroman, 12% owned right now, 7,200. Quality matchup here against Washington, but I don't think that he's a guy that I'm going to get to today. Don't really love him from a fantasy sense. Although the park, at least as of this morning, was looking like it was going to be set up for him pretty well. What do you want to do with Stroman?
I think he's a good value here. I just don't know how often I end up needing to get down to that price range. 7,200, I think, is too cheap. He's got a 22.5% strikeout percentage this year, 3.31 xFIP. He's facing a below average offense in the Nats. They don't strike out a ton, but only a 3.1 implied run total. Like you said, it looks like it's around 70 degrees in Chicago with the wind, if anything, blowing in. So I do like Stroman. It's just that you have limited pitcher spots, and anytime I have Stroman, it means at most I have one of Ohtani, Cole, Wheeler, Bieber, which isn't necessarily ideal. But I do think he's one of the best, like, value pitchers, I guess, cheap pitchers, at 7,200. If you go there, if you play a Ohtani Stroman lineup or a Cole Stroman lineup, you're going to be able to do pretty much whatever you want with bats, which is really nice.
Yep. Espino, second cheapest guy on the slate. Any interest because of the weather?
No, not really. I mean, 5,100 for anybody that is relatively stretched out, I guess, is like technically underpriced, but I really just don't think you're going to need that level of savings here.
Okay.
And you also have cheap pitchers facing the Angels and the Pirates today.
Cubs bats are 13th in our top stack tool, 7th in aggregate exposure. Ortega in double digits. No one else is in double digits, however. I feel like they should be a slightly better value stack than 20th, but not that that really matters. I am getting to a little bit of Chicago here. Basically like 2x the field. How do you feel about the Cubs?
I think it's reasonable. I do like the addition of Franmil Reyes to the middle of this order. We know that he certainly has his flaws as a hitter, but he does have power. He's only 2,400 against right-handed hitters this year. Espino only an 18.4% strikeout percentage to go along with a 240 expected ISO and a 346 expected WOBA. So while you're looking at power bats in general, like he's allowed a 187 expected ISO to lefties as well, right-handed power just plays well against him and has for basically the whole time he's been in the majors. So now you just have this middle of the order where you have Contreras, Suzuki, Reyes, Horner, Wisdom, and then obviously you're fine playing Ian Happ in the middle of that as well. So I do think that even though the weather isn't conducive for hitting, that's also just sort of reflected in the ownership. If it were 85 degrees, 90 degrees, and the wind were blowing out, the Cubs would be extremely popular against Espino. So the only thing knocking that ownership down, well, two things knocking the ownership down are the Cardinals and Braves, and then also just the fact that the weather's not very good. So just because it's not perfect hitting weather doesn't mean you can't still hit home runs off of Espino. You still have a 4.4 implied run total going to the Cubs as well.
Anything here for the Nats? Oddly enough, I'm actually getting to a tiny amount of them as well. And when I say tiny, I mean like 4 to 5%, 4% of the Nats, but it's not 0, which I would have expected.
I don't think I get to much. Luis Garcia is leading off 3,800 shortstop, kind of just probably fits into some lineups. But it's nothing I expect to get to outside of, just random like two-mans here and there.
I think just because of the value and the fact that Stroman has a little bit of ownership, it's like dragged the Nats into like 5 stacks of mine, and that's enough to register on a day like today. Anything else, Cubs or Nats?
Nope.
Astros and Rangers. 4.5 run implied total for the Stros, 3.4 for the Rangers. Jose Urquidy and Martin Perez. Perez is 8,700, pulling no ownership whatsoever, and I can't imagine getting to him on a day like today. Jose Urquidy, on the other hand, 7,100 against Texas, 16% owned. I am getting some. I'm not getting to 16%, but very clearly a good value option today.
Yeah, I'm really surprised how well Urquidy's projecting. I don't like it, but I guess I'm going to just have to deal with it.
I've got him at the highest number pretty easily below Carrasco.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, and I kind of have a difficult time explaining it. Like, he's not a very good strikeout pitcher. He's striking out 19% of hitters this year, 4.35 xFIP, 1.34 home runs per 9. Texas isn't the scariest lineup, but Semien, Seager, Lowe, Garcia, Heim isn't bad. 3.2 implied run total, good park to pitch in. Like, I think he's underpriced at 7,100. I think he's a good play at 7,100. I'm mostly just surprised by how well he's projecting. Like, he's projecting actually well, not just good for the salary.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, I've got him at 16, point and a half ahead of Stroman.
Right, yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So I have him 0.9 of a point ahead of Stroman. If I wasn't looking at my stuff right now and was just, saying what I think, I would be shocked that he was projecting better than Stroman.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see it. I mean, I've got him projected the same as somebody else that I don't even want to say out loud. So,
yeah,
somebody that's much better than him in real life.
Wait, so you said you had?
I have Urquidy with the exact same projection as someone in the 9Ks, and it's not Freddie Peralta.
So I mean, it's either Castillo or Musgrove.
It is Castillo.
Yeah, I mean, I have Castillo by 0.7 of a point, but again, like I would have guessed, I would have like 2.
Right. And I'm not surprised by that. Castillo is facing the Yankees. That's a slightly different lineup than the Rangers.
Right.
The bats that I am getting to in this game do not belong to the Houston Astros, but I will ask you first, how do you feel about Houston here, unowned today, 10th in our top stack tool?
I think they're going to be difficult to get to. Anytime you can play low-owned Houston, that's perfectly fine. It's just really difficult on this slate because they're expensive. There's good pitching. There's very good stacks that aren't as expensive, which is the other thing. Like even the Braves and the Mets and the Blue Jays that aren't like super cheap, they're still, 2 to 4% chances or 2.5 to 4% chances of being the top value stacks on DraftKings compared to 0.5% for Houston. So you're really giving a lot up to get to them. And then even though I don't have interest in getting to Martin Perez in tournaments because he's not particularly good at getting strikeouts, he still held right-handed hitters to a 109 expected ISO and a 294 expected WOBA this year. So you're really talking about like a pitcher that's done a good job limiting power. Mancini is also not in the lineup, so that kind of free square in Houston isn't there. It's, I think, just kind of hard to get to them over other teams, even though if you manage to do it, it's fine. Like they're really good.
At this moment, the Texas Rangers are the team that I am most over the field on. It's not difficult to do. Marcus Semien is 5% owned. The next highest owned guy on the Rangers is Corey Seager at 1.5. I think they've got sneaky power today. I don't really think that Urquidy is like exception. I think he's an average major league pitcher, and he's pulling a little bit of ownership. I've got some interest in Texas. I didn't think that would be the case considering they have a 3.4 run implied total, at least on my screen. Do you see Texas as viable today?
So there's a couple of bats I like. Adolis Garcia in particular at 4,300, I think looks good. Urquidy has really struggled with right-handed power this year, 248 expected ISO and only a 16% strikeout percentage. So you're getting Garcia, a guy that does have, plenty of swing and miss against a pitcher that doesn't miss a lot of bats. Garcia does have a 216 expected ISO against right-handed pitching this season. So at 4,300, I do like him as a one-off. Clearly, you're always going to be fine getting to Semien and Seager low at 3,200. Heim is a pretty decent hitting catcher. But as far as full stacks go, I don't think I get there. I do just really like Adolis Garcia.
I think the issue for me is one, they're relatively cheap, except for in the spots that they shouldn't be. Like 5K Seager to me looks fantastic. You get Semien with the MPE at the top, very deserved. Low 3,200 covers first. You get Jonah Heim, 3,600 covers your catcher spot. And then you get guys like Bubba Thompson, who, whatever, but flat minimum. Brad Miller, basically flat minimum. Josh Smith, basically flat minimum. Like these guys are all free squares at the ass end of the lineup to a degree. If Urquidy maintains this ownership, I think it's going to be pretty easy for me to just have some Ranger stacks that are going completely unowned. Because it's basically everyone's using Marcus Semien as a solo, as a one-off. Maybe Seager sneaks in a little bit, and then they're just unowned.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with your reasoning. I will say that the projection that I have on Urquidy makes me think it's less likely I get there too, just because obviously I'm probably not projecting Texas all that well. But yeah, I mean, again, my favorite play here is just completely unowned $4,300 Garcia.
All righty. Go Texas today. Didn't expect, if you asked me earlier this morning, I would have been like, I probably don't have them at all. Right. And now they're like a mild problem for me. Anything else here, Stros or Rangers?
Nope.
Would have liked to get to Astros today, but that is just not happening. What is happening is that we should be talking about Odds Shopper. We do this basically every day, and I honestly enjoy doing this read because I know how much this tool can help you guys out. And the biggest key for this is the fact that it's completely free. It's on the screen right now. If you're in a legal sports betting state, it's perfect for you to shop lines. If you're trying to just bet sides and totals, you can very quickly see every sports book that you could possibly need for it, and you'll get the best line. That is going to help you out tremendously. Making sure that you bet the best number that you can find at the moment you put in that bet is just going to keep more money in your bankroll. It doesn't affect anybody else. It's just savings to you. It's like getting a lower interest rate, basically. Now, on the opposite side, if you're more interested in the player prop side of everything, we can help you out there with an abundance of data. We show our projections. We show the expected ROI on the bet. We show the expected win rate on the bet. We have parlay builders on Odds Shopper using that same sort of information to let you know exactly what you should expect from those bets. And as I stated at the beginning, it is all completely free. Costs you nothing other than an email address sign up. I think that's a pretty easy ask for us. So please use Odds Shopper. If you're not in a legal state, it's still a great spot to check out sides and totals for your DFS work. reviewing player props will certainly at least help you maybe work on some 1v1 type decisions. All of that stuff is just out there for you, totally free at oddsshopper.com. So make sure you're checking it all out. Game number 8, Brewers and Rays. 4.4 run implied total for the Brewers, 3.5 for the Rays. Freddie Peralta and Ryan Yarbrough as the long man. No real ownership going to Yarbrough. Freddie Peralta's in like 2% of lineups. I think that's about all you could really ask for. I don't know how deep he could actually go in this game, and he's not priced as if he can go deep in this game.
Yeah, it makes it really difficult to want to roster him, I think, just given the context of the rest of the slate. If this were a slate, that just didn't have good pitching, then I think you could pretty easily make the case for just hoping you get 80 pitches or so from Peralta and that, he just goes 5 innings, strikes out 8 guys, and you're in pretty good shape. The issue, though, is that on this slate where you have Ohtani, Cole, Wheeler, Castillo, Bieber, just to name, the top 5 guys, you have Musgrove, you have Carrasco, like there's so many good strikeout pitchers on this slate that aren't on a pitch count that it just becomes a really, really thin margin of error for Peralta to actually be somebody you need. You're kind of just every pitcher has downside risk, but with him, you just don't have that true ceiling. Not to say he can't go get 20 something fantasy points in 80 pitches, but he's not going to go get like 35 like Garrett Cole can.
Right. Yeah, that's just not in the cards, unfortunately. Yeah, I got like 3%, but I might even knock that down when I run my final crunch to just sort of make sure that I don't get him. Because I don't really care if I have a couple strays of him. If Freddie Peralta ends up mattering today, I'm cool with not having it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this slate just went completely off the rails if Freddie Peralta ends up being somebody that you have to win.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be some really wild offenses that went crazy. And evidently, Garrett Cole, Wheeler, Ohtani, Bieber, Castillo all probably had to suck pretty aggressively.
Right.
I'm good.
And that's not even to mention Morton and Manoah and like these other guys that are going to be allowed to go further into games than Peralta.
Right. Yeah, it's too tough of a sell on a slate like this. Number 11 in our top stack tool, 17th in ownership. Outside of Willy Adames at 3%, no one's getting any ownership here. The Brewers are like my discount version of the Rangers in that they're not owned at all, and I'm getting like 7-8% in the aggregate.
I'm kind of interested in Milwaukee. The thing that I think is most difficult for me is that the hitters that I really want, in particular, Willy Adames and Hunter Renfroe, are both expensive. Adames at 5,200, Renfroe at 5K. So it's just going to be a little bit more difficult for me to get there. I mean, Rowdy Tellez is 5,600, Yelich is 5,300. You have Jimmy Yacobonis opening. He's got nasty stuff. Can have trouble throwing strikes, but just ridiculous stuff. And then you have Yarbrough coming in after him. Yarbrough has allowed a 214 expected ISO to righties this year. Basically no power whatsoever to lefties, sub 100 expected ISO. So those right-handed power bats are appealing once Yarbrough comes into the game, but there's only a couple of them in the lineup and they are expensive as well. Luis Urias at 4K, I guess, is a decent play too, but the pricing just becomes problematic for me.
How are you feeling about the Rays on the opposite side here? 18th in top stack, 21st in ownership. They are unowned.
Yeah, I don't really have interest there. Outside of Brandon Lau and Rosarena, they are very cheap, and it is a park upgrade for them going into, I think it's still called Miller Park. I actually have no idea. But whatever Milwaukee is called, it's a park upgrade for them. And they're cheap, but it's just not a great spot against Peralta, and then you do have quality arms behind him as well.
You mean American Family Field?
Is that what it is? I couldn't remember if that was I knew either Milwaukee or Cincinnati had changed to that.
What a dog shit name. Oh my God. Awful. Truly awful. At least they should have always been like the Beast Stadium or something like that and just have like Milwaukee's best cans everywhere.
It's a pretty crazy change too, to go from being named after a beer company to American Family Field or whatever.
Oddly enough, it's incredibly fitting for America.
Eh.
I don't have anything else in Brewers Rays. What a dog shit name of a stadium.
I think they still have the slide, Larry, but I'm not sure.
I was trying to think of like what's the nerfed version of that they have, but I have no idea any longer. And now people who work for American Family are offended. I don't give a shit about those people either. I don't even know what that is.
My
Do
guess would
you?
be like a life insurance company, but I have absolutely no idea.
I mean, that feels like the safest bet.
Yeah, American Family Insurance.
Yeah, great. They were probably the underwriters on the people that went down the slide. Rockies and Cardinals. This is the big one for today. 5-run implied total for the Rockies, 6.2 for the Cards. Ryan Feltner and Miles Michaelis. I'm skipping right over the pitching. If you happen to want to do that, feel free to go back to it. But we got to talk about the hitting here. Number one in top stack, number one in ownership. There's no debate. The Cardinals are the number one stack today, at least from a raw data perspective. You cannot come to a different conclusion. That is impossible today. The question is, what do we do about it?
Yeah, and one thing that will be interesting because it happened during the show, so obviously haven't run anything for it, but I mentioned it before. Yadi Molina not catching. He was 2,200. You have Andrew Kisner. Molina's not good anymore, but you're talking about somebody with like an 84, 85 WRC plus over each of the last few seasons, dropping off to Andrew Kisner, who has like a 60 WRC plus in his career. So getting even worse. Still a catcher that probably pulls some ownership just because he's cheap and in Coors Field, but it should pull down the ownership of the Cardinals a bit, I think. But it's still just a completely mispriced team. 3, 4, and 5, Goldschmidt, Arenado, O'Neill. These guys are all at reasonable prices for Coors Field. Goldschmidt, 6,400, Arenado, 56, O'Neill, 51. Outside of that, nobody on this team is remotely close to being correctly priced. $4,300 Dylan Carlson leading off. Pretty much a cash game lock, somebody that you're going to be getting to in a lot of tournament lineups as well. Same goes for Nolan Gorman. Newt Barr at 2,300 hitting sixth. Pretty much a cash game lock, somebody you're going to be getting to in tournaments for value. DeYoung at 3,500 looks really good. Edman hitting ninth at 4,600. Maybe he actually doesn't get that much ownership just because he's hitting ninth and he's the same position as DeYoung and Gorman, who both project better, or at least as better values. So I do like Edman as maybe a way to get a little bit contrarian in tournaments. We still have Edman getting 15%, so not as low as I was hoping. We have Kisner at 13.5%, but one way or the other, it's just a really good value stack here where, the kind of the point that I made this morning, and I think it's important to think about because, we talk about the top stacks tool a lot in terms of just top stack percentage versus ownership. And, right now for DraftKings, we have the Cardinals with an 18.6% chance of being the top stack and 22% ownership. So there's a tendency to just look at that and say like, oh, they're too low owned, or too hot, too popular. But the value component is big as well because even though, like point per dollar value in baseball doesn't matter in the way it does like in basketball, you're still talking about just being able to get better players into your lineup. So if you're going to a much more expensive team, obviously you're sacrificing a pitcher, you're going to be sacrificing upside in your one-offs. Whereas with the Cardinals, you're just going to be able to build extremely good lineups around them as well. And it's going to make that top stack percentage like effectively higher because you're just building such good lineups with the Cardinals. You kind of have access to anything else you want to do. So it's really difficult right now for me to want to get away from them. The other thing, and you and I think actually talked about this after the show this morning, most of the other teams that I like are also getting ownership either in line with where they probably should be or even a little bit over-owned. Like, I really like the Braves. They're getting 12% ownership, 10% chance of being the top stack. Mets ownership is pretty much in line with their top stack percentage. Blue Jays are going a little bit over-owned. So it's not like I have a team that I'm like, oh, this is a really good spot, and they're losing ownership because the Cardinals are getting it. The Cardinals kind of just... It's sort of just like you either, if your logic is that the Cardinals are going too over-owned, then you're kind of going to end up just missing out on all of these top teams in terms of top stack percentage and getting down to like the middle of the pack teams like, the Diamondbacks and the Brewers and the Phillies, which is fine. But the approach that I'm more likely to take is that relative to a lot of these other top teams, the Cardinals actually aren't getting enough ownership when you factor in the value and their chances of being the top stack.
Yeah, I've got a bunch. They're my most exposed team. It's not close, but in the aggregate, it's basically neutral to the field. I'm a little bit lighter on like 5-mans and 4-mans, but in terms of like 3-mans and lineup filler, it's every lineup that I have is basically some sort of Cardinals filling it out. So if I get a 5-man, I don't know, Pirates stack, like you best believe I'm getting to essentially like a 3-man Cardinal stack on the opposite side of it. So while my 5 and 4s are a little bit lighter, they're coming in like 5th or 6th in terms of team stacks. In the aggregate, no team has more ownership. Take my second most owned team and double it, and that's basically the Cardinals. So They're just everywhere.
Yeah. My expectation, I've said it on a lot of shows, that typically if you go back and look at my 150 lineups, I either end up like jamming in a few offenses and being spread out at pitcher, or jamming in a few pitchers and being spread out at offense. This strikes me as a slate where I probably am pretty concentrated on bats and then a lot flatter on pitching.
All righty. Yeah, I just can't see a way. The only downside here, I was actually like pretty aggressively fading Molina. I had 6%. Like that would have been like, I'd have been cool with that because I think he sucks. But now we'll see if that holds when we run it for whatever that numbnuts is that's actually catching for them today.
Kisner.
Yeah, I forgot it already. What about the Rockies side of this one? They are 7th in aggregate ownership, 5th in top stack. I'm not really getting there because Michaelis is a solid real life pitcher and the Rockies stink.
Yeah, and it's kind of a pricing thing for me as well. I'm never like opposed to getting to the Rockies in cores, but they're getting 6% ownership. They have a 5.5% chance of being the top stack, and then only a 2% chance of being the top value stack. So we have them 5th in top stack percentage behind the Cardinals, Braves, Mets, and Blue Jays. All 4 of those teams have a better chance of being the top value. So you're just getting a team where the ownership is there, the value isn't. I don't really have anything pushing me to the Rockies when you consider that.
Yeah, highest owned guy that I got out of the Rockies was CJ Cron at 4%. So this is just not a spot that I'm going to be getting to. I just wish that DK could wake up and do cores correctly. That's all I want.
Yeah, it would make slates a lot more fun because like I miss the days of it being like, this would be the perfect slate to have the Cardinals correctly priced in Coors Field, and you actually have to say like, all right, I'm playing Marcus Stroman and Jose Urquidy and the Cardinals, or I'm playing Ohtani, Cole, and a not the Cardinals team.
Yeah. Eric in chat wants to know, would you do a 5-man card stack in the 111, or is that too chalky? So
no, it's still fine. You just need to do something. I mean, I probably wouldn't play like 5-man cards with Riley, Acuna, and I don't know, some other Alejandro Kirk or something, but yeah, you can still get there. I mean, I would play the 111 pretty similarly to the way that I played the 15, because like the field is going to be sharper, but it's still a large enough field tournament. Like you can still get 133 lineups in. I don't think you're going to get like true high stakes ownership where the Cardinals, instead of being 22% owned, are like 50% owned.
No, probably something in the mid 30s for the higher guys. Yeah. Well, that's Coors Field, everybody. Hit that like button, by the way. 780 viewers. We're at 123 likes. I haven't asked much. Feels a little low. I think 175 is in our sight. So if you could hit that like button, get us up to 175. I think we're putting together a hell of a show. 20 minutes to go before we kick this one over to live before lock. 14, 13. Okay, so A's and Angels, trying to figure out how many games we still have left. Making good time. 2.8 run implied total for the A's. 3.8 for the Angels. James Caprillion and Shohei Ohtani. We got to start on the Ohtani side here. 10,300, third most expensive pitcher behind Zach Wheeler and Garrett Cole. 34% owned the last time that I pulled our ownership, which was the highest ownership mark on the slate. How do you feel about Ohtani right now? I am slightly under that field mark, but clearly looks good.
Yeah, that's my expectation right now. You know, kind of mentioned it earlier that at least with the stuff I'd run before the show, it seemed like he might be the guy I get the least of. But again, I don't think this is going to be a slate where like I just don't play Ohtani. I think me saying I'm going to get the least means that if we have, 32% ownership going to Ohtani and or 34% going to Ohtani, 28 to Cole, 21 to Wheeler, maybe I end up with like, 21 Ohtani, 34 Wheeler, 28 Cole, something like that. I would be very, very surprised if I'm just like not playing a nice chunk of Ohtani here. He looks very good. He has the highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 35.9%, 2.29 xFIP. Honestly, kind of surprised that he does project as close to Cole and Wheeler as he does. Obviously not too much of a concern for me because they're both really good pitchers as well. But Ohtani looks very good. He's in cash games. I would say you have Ohtani and then you have one of Cole or Wheeler. I think you kind of can flip a coin on that one, but Ohtani's the one that I for sure think I will have.
Ohtani is the guy with my highest projection right now, but and he is my third most owned pitcher. He's basically tied with Carrasco. Carrasco becoming pretty important for me. it just appears that I'm paying up for more stacks. So it is opening Carrasco a bit for me. But Ohtani is the pay up option that I'm getting the most, and I'm totally cool with it. But I could pick anybody right now at the top, and I wouldn't have a problem with any of it. How do you feel about Caprillion on the opposite side? We know there's a lot of strikeouts in the Angels lineup. It's a great ballpark for pitchers, just in general. 5% owned at 5,600. If you need value, is he the best option?
So I have Henry ahead of him, but I have them both actually as pretty decent options if you need value. Like, there's still obviously a really big gap between them and the competent pitchers on this slate, but it's a pitcher facing the Angels in Oakland. He has the lowest strikeout percentage on the slate at 15.7%. He has a 5.2 xFIP. The guy is really, really bad. The Angels are also really, really bad. So yeah, like if you just need savings, like I saw somebody in chat saying they like the idea of the Astros tonight because there's expensive pitching and they'll certainly be very low owned. I think that's a reasonable take. I don't think it's the approach that I'm going to end up taking, but that's a team where go to Caprillion. If he gets you 18, 20 DraftKings points, which is certainly possible against the Angels, you're probably in you're in good shape as long as the Astros do what they're supposed to do. So it's, from a value standpoint, it's good. It's just, I don't really know how often I actually end up getting there. He came out of my crunch before the show like 7% at 5% projected ownership.
I've got him 9% of lineup, so that makes sense to me, and I don't have anything else to say. That's the most of anybody that I have at the bottom. Angels bats look awful. A's bats look even worse. I don't want to roster hitters in this game.
Yeah, I don't really either, especially because you can't get to Ohtani. The price tag on Jared Walsh at 3,100 against Caprillion is pretty nice. Adele's facing a pitcher that has trouble missing bats. Taylor Ward's good, but yeah, I don't really have much interest in hitters here.
All righty. Well, I've got one more thing to talk to you guys about, and then we can just finish off this slate with 4 more games. But that would be a little bit of best ball conversation. You apparently were doing some best ball drafts today, or you just stopped immediately when it was humid outside and then gave up and did something else. I'm not entirely sure.
No, I came back into the air conditioning and kept doing them.
There we go. Underdog has the Puppy 3 best ball contests, and you can get in using the promo code Puppy3, PUPPY, the number 3. Get our best ball kit for $1 for a week. This is the last day that this deal is going to exist. It covers our best ball and season-long football rankings, Underdog daily draft rankings, and more, and more. So you also want to subscribe to the fantasy football and best ball channels because we're putting out a ton of content there. But again, you see it on the screen right now, 90% off. 1 week of this content for $1. Don't sleep on that deal right now. It's honestly fantastic. NFL preseason is around too. We have preseason DFS projections. We're giving them to you for $1 as well through August 10th. So one more day here. You can use the promo code preseason at checkout to get those preseason projections. But take advantage of the best ball content, guys. For $1 for a week, you really can't beat that kind of a deal.
Weather update. It seems like everything's trending in the good direction.
All righty. Thank you for that. Diamondbacks and Pirates, 4.7 run implied total for the Diamondbacks, 3.8 for the Pirates. Tommy Henry going for Arizona. Zach Thompson going for Pittsburgh. Henry in 7% of lineups. He is the most owned paydown option right now and appears to be the guy that you would get to as well.
Yeah, just have him a little bit ahead of Caprillion. Projects to be a better strikeout pitcher. Still not very good. xFIP north of 5 at AAA this year. Strikeout percentage around 21%. But better than Caprillion, which isn't very difficult to do. And he also has a good matchup against the Pirates. So I think it's kind of splitting hairs. Like, ideally, I don't really want either of these guys, but if I am paying down, I think Henry and Caprillion are the guys you do it with.
Yep. I agree with you completely. Those are the only 2 options really for me at the bottom. Slight lean to Caprillion, but I can go either direction. Diamondbacks bats are 7th in our top stack tool, 5th in ownership. Now, most of that ownership is going to Rojas and Thomas in the 1-2 spot. And for the most part, I understand Rojas has the MPE. Alec Thomas is a $3,500 outfielder, but this is a spot where I'm going to be under the field on Arizona, much like I was yesterday.
Yeah, I expect it to be the same. Thompson's not a particularly good pitcher. Arizona's not a great lineup, and there is some value here. 179 expected ISO to righties, 172 to lefties for Thompson. I like the price on Alec Thompson. I like the price on Christian Walker. You have a cheap Jake McCarthy and Seth Beer. Rojas is solid at the top. Kettle Marte is good. So I understand, why Arizona is pulling some ownership here, but just getting a little bit more than I would like to get to.
Okay. I am getting to a small amount of the Pirates, which I didn't expect. 15th in top stack, 10th in ownership, but they are our number one stack from a value perspective. I think they're working pretty well for me as filler, and they are very easy to stack at the top of the lineup. Second outfield, third, first, short in the 1 through 5 spots generally helps me out here. Do you have any interest in Pittsburgh as a value option?
Yeah, surprisingly, because while the lineup isn't very good, so I do think Michael Chavis, assuming he's in the lineup at 2K, is a good value. He was in my early cash build. Kevin Newman at 3,100 is a solid value at second base. Brian Reynolds is actually a solid hitter. Brian Hayes is probably going to be a good hitter. O'Neal Cruz, we know, has plenty of upside. So 1 through 5, if that is the 1 through 5, they're actually not bad. It's not like it's an offense you feel great about, but going up against a pitcher in Tommy Henry that had an xFIP north of 5 at AAA, it's not like you're looking at those 5 guys and saying like, wow, this is awful. How do they possibly do well? Once you get beyond them, it starts to get a little bit uglier. But the value they offer and the fact that they're not pulling that much ownership and there's just not been that many teams that we really like on this slate does make me more likely to get there when I just don't have an abundance of mid-range offenses that you're middle of the pack, like in top stack percentage offenses that I really like or think are going under owned or are going to be easy to get to. I think it's more likely that I'm just using relatively low owned Pittsburgh to balance out some St. Louis or some Atlanta or some Mets or Blue Jays.
Yeah, the Pirates stack with chalky filler and, 2 very high dollar pitchers seems totally up my alley on a day like today. So I'm definitely going to get to more Pittsburgh than I am Arizona.
Agreed.
Padres and Giants, 4.1 run implied total for the Pods, 3.2 for the Giants. Joe Musgrove and Alex Cobb. Cobb not getting any love, 7K. Don't really see the idea or the want of trying to attack the Padres. 8% ownership going to Musgrove. This is another spot where I think that's just a little light. I've got double that. I'm coming in at 15% right now. I actually like the strikeout matchup here for Musgrove as well, but if he's just going to be low owned, I'm going to get a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I expect to be getting more Musgrove. He, out of the top end pitchers, he came in as the most under-owned for me before the show started. So that makes me think I'm going to get there. 110 expected ISO with a 25.6% strikeout percentage to lefties this year, 24.3% strikeout percentage to righties. So it's not like he's someone that we really have to worry about the fact that the Giants are running a left-handed heavy lineup out there. Hasn't been an issue this year. 3.2 implied run total for the Giants, 75 degrees in San Diego because it's a day that ends in Y. So it's just a solid enough spot for Musgrove. He's getting, 1/3 the ownership of Shane Bieber, or close to 1/3 the ownership of Shane Bieber at the same price point. I like Musgrove quite a bit in tournaments.
You and me both. I can't imagine you're getting to Cobb.
No, I mean, I think he's going under owned, but it's more in the sense of 4 or 5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher and 1% ownership. He's a good pitcher. He has no business being $7,000, but there's just so much good pitching on this slate and the matchup's difficult enough. I doubt I really get there.
Flex in chat right now just said, obviously another competitor is running a show right now. I'm waiting for Sean to get off Big T's lap. That's great. I am not getting to the Padres bats. I'm not getting to the Giants bats. I wouldn't mind getting to the Padres bats. I just don't think that's happening today.
Yeah, if it does, I'm cool with it. I certainly would like to be there when they actually start hitting, but I also have a lot of respect for Alex Cobb as a pitcher. Right now, the Padres are not pulling any ownership, but they're also not very easy to get to. Soto, Machado, Drury are all extremely expensive, all north of 5K. Bell and Cronenworth are almost 5K. Profar is 4,500. It's just another team, kind of like the Astros, where I have enough respect for the opposing pitcher that I'm probably not going to be really actively trying to get to them. And then their price tags are just expensive enough that it's going to be tough for them to kind of just fall into lineups.
Is Cobb better than Musgrove?
in real life.
Yeah.
I think it's really close.
Yeah. Steamer's got the FIP by 3.35 for Cobb.
Yeah, 2.81 xFIP for Cobb this year, 3.32 for Musgrove, 25% strikeout percentage for Musgrove, 24.9% for Cobb.
I think that explains how good the Padres are. That 7K Alex Cobb is just like I don't want to say like unplayable, but like essentially unplayable.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like he projects, an offense is good and or the other offenses are bad when Alex Cobb projects worse than James Caprillion and Tommy Henry.
Yeah. Like if the Padres were the Reds today, is Alex Cobb the most owned pitcher?
Yeah, probably. It would just be everybody grabbing one of those guys at the top and then grabbing Alex Cobb.
Yeah. That's really crazy today. Really crazy to think about. I don't have anything else here. I have the aggregate strikeout rate for the Padres today at 18%. I'm not sure I've ever seen it like much lower than that. The Pirates like 2 years ago were really flirting with it when they had just no strikeouts in their lineup, but that is so low.
Yeah, for a team that has the amount of power the Padres have also, that's just crazy.
Per Steamer, Trent Grisham at 23% is the high man in the lineup. Nuts. Crazy game. All right, 2 to go. Mariners and Yankees, 3.3 run implied total for the Mariners, 3.6 for the Yankees. Oh, and the morons here. Luis Castillo and Garrett Cole going in this one. Castillo, 12% owned. Garrett Cole, 27% owned. Let's start with Cole, 10,500. Most expensive pitcher on the slate. Do you anticipate being under, over, or relatively neutral?
I missed the question because I was distracted by chat. I'm assuming you're asking me if I'm going to be under, over, or relatively neutral on Garrett Cole.
Yes.
My guess is that I end up coming in pretty neutral, just because, again, in the stuff I ran before the show, out of those three at the top, I had Ohtani being the most over-owned, Wheeler the most under-owned, and then Cole in the middle of the three. So I think there's a good chance that I just end up sort of with Cole coming in around the field. Like, I think there's a good chance I kind of just end up playing 30% across the board or something like that.
Okay. I'm a little lighter than the field on Cole right now. Not as light as I am on Wheeler. I have a little bit more Cole than Wheeler, but I'm not getting to that tippy top. A lot of that has to do with getting to 2x the field on Shane Bieber right now. Obviously, any amount of Garrett Cole that I end up with, it's not even going to register to me. I'm not going to see any, like the ownership of Cole, Wheeler, Ohtani, Musgrove, Bieber, like all of these. I'm not even going to notice it because all of them, no matter what I see at the high end, it's just going to make sense because it's just like, yeah, those guys are really good.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have like a preference, or I don't care which of. I mean, I guess my preference would be Ohtani, but that's, ignoring ownership. I don't care. I know I'm going to see plenty of ownership going to all three of those guys. I don't really care what order it's in. I think that they are all very good. They all have more or less the same range of outcomes. Ohtani does have the matchup against the A's, which is really nice, but all these guys are really, really good.
What about Luis Castillo on the opposite side? 9,200, pulling 12% ownership. I'm not getting there, mostly because of the Yankees. It just seems like I'm taking on risk for risk's sake.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going a little under-owned, but I don't think he's going as under-owned as Joe Musgrove is. And so I think that if the numbers hold the way they are right now, I'm more likely to just be getting to Musgrove before I get to him. I have them projected about the same, like within 1/10 of a point. So
I have a very big gap between Musgrove and Castillo.
Yeah, well, you said you had Castillo below like Urquidy, right?
I have him as the same as Urquidy. I have Musgrove by 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We have Castillo by 1.
I don't know how to project Luis Castillo for more fantasy points than Joe Musgrove, given the two matchups today.
Yeah, I don't really either. I mean, I think it's reasonable that they are, even. There is
I'm probably too aggressive. I have no problem saying that.
Right,
but
right.
I couldn't go the other direction.
There's a decent chance we get a watered down Yankees lineup too. Like we know they're not going to have Matt Carpenter. Anthony Rizzo's missed the last couple of games. I don't know if he'll be back tonight or not. For now, I'm assuming he is, but there's certainly a chance that you don't get him either. It is a good park to pitch in. So like there's still stuff working in Castillo's favor. They only have a 3.7 implied run total. But still, it's a half run higher than the Giants. And you're talking about two pitchers that have similar strikeout stuff. Castillo this year is at 26.1%. Musgrove's at 25. Castillo 3.35 xFIP. Musgrove 3.32. So it's like to me, I think they're pretty much they're very similar in terms of talent. Musgrove clearly has the better matchup because the Giants aren't the Yankees.
Right. There's no argument for offense here other than just that the Yankees are good.
Yeah, if you just want to blindly play the Yankees every single day, you probably make money over the course of a season, but probably not one that I'm getting to.
I've got nothing else here. I don't know how to talk about the offenses. It's probably the best pitching matchup on the slate.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, Castillo has been good at limiting power this year anyway, and then now you're getting him from Great American or whatever that's called now, getting him into Seattle. Sub 100 expected ISO to righties, 142 to lefties. Just a really difficult pitcher to attack.
Still Great American ballpark.
Oh, is it? I thought they had changed it to something else too, but I guess not.
We're talking about Cincy's Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, still Great American. I was just making sure you weren't trying to say like Seattle's Park or something and call it Safeco.
No, is that T-Mobile now or is it something else?
I don't know. Where's EMAC when you need him?
Yeah.
It is T-Mobile. Where's Laffy when you need him too? He usually rips these off like it's nothing. I don't know them anymore, and nor do I care. Dodgers and Twins closing it out. Guys, hit that like button if you haven't done it already. 930 people in here. Let's run that number up to 200 before we turn it over to Live Before Lock. 4.8 run implied total for the Dodgers, 3.3 for the Twins. Julio Urias and Joe Ryan. Ryan getting no ownership. Urias at about 6%. He's 9K. And that seems about right to me. I don't want to get a lot, but should he be in 5 to 10% of lineups? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't really have any issue with that. I think that's pretty much correct. He's just another good, but not as good as everyone else pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, I got 9%. If I had 0, I wouldn't notice. If I had 10, I won't notice. He's just there.
Yeah, I had him at 7. We have him projected for 6.
Oh, shit. Oh, I really wish I could take that phone call. Joe Ryan?
Really, really difficult to get there, I think. Dodgers are just a really good offense. You don't need the pitching. Like, you don't need to take crazy risks at pitcher today. 4.9 implied run total for the Dodgers. Ryan also, like, he's still got decent strikeout stuff, 24% strikeout percentage, but he has taken a step back overall. 4.46 xFIP this year, 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And again, I'm just not really looking to go out of my way to target the Dodgers on a slate that has like 100 good pitchers, and a lot of them are in good spots.
I'm getting to a little bit of the Dodgers bats right now. Nothing crazy, like 5% across the board, which is basically where their ownership is for a couple of their main guys. Do you like the Dodgers against Ryan?
Yeah, I do. I think, I haven't actually built lineups yet, but just looking at the stuff I did before the show, I think there's a good chance the Dodgers do end up being a team that I actually get to pretty heavily, just because they're one of the few teams that I actually have projected to go like substantially under-owned. And Ryan has only struck out 16.9% of lefties this year. We don't have a Dodgers lineup yet, but I assume we'll have Freeman, Muncy, Bellinger, Lux probably from the left side. And then the righties are just so good with Betts, Turner, Smith, other Turner, that I don't really care that Ryan's been better against righties. 30% strikeout percentage to righties, 143 expected ISO. You certainly prefer the left-handed bats, but the righties are just so good also. So I do like getting to the Dodgers here at what right now is 3% projected ownership.
Let's sum it up. Favorite stacks for today?
St. Louis, Atlanta, Mets.
Favorite pitchers?
Ohtani, Cole, Wheeler. I like Musgrove a lot in tournaments.
There it is, everybody. We are done. Deeper dive in the books. Turning it over to Live Before Lock now. So stay on this stream. Don't go anywhere. Good luck tonight, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. But remember, Live Before Lock right here. You don't have to change anything. Just stay put.
All right, it is that time once again. What's up, everybody? Ben Razza here for Odd Chopper, bringing you my best bet of the day. Tuesday, August 9th in the sports world. We're going to scan the board, try to break down all the games, and find the one with the best value and the one that's going to cash that ticket and keep the momentum going, because last night, the Cubbies, easy win for us. We laid the half run in the first 5. It's so nice when you have a bet and it goes to plan. Sanchez gave up a couple hard hits, a dinger, 2 home runs. That's what we want. Our pitcher was fantastic, worked in and out of trouble. Pretty smooth sailing. We're going to try to keep that going. If you are discovering the channel for the first time, welcome to Odd Shop, where we're breaking down all the sports here. If you want to show support, if you've been on a good run with us, hit that like button, and more importantly, subscribe to the channel. We don't want you to miss any of the content. We've got a lot going on, and we also can tell you about some ways to make some money, and BetMGM, the sponsor of this video, is the way to do that if you haven't been over there. Promo code BensBet. It's on the screen, or just go to the comments and use the link in that description. You sign up, deposit money up to $1,000. You're going to get that risk-free bet. Doesn't have to be $1,000, but why not take advantage of that? You get an opportunity to make some money. If you lose, you've lost nothing. You get it back in free bets. It's a great opportunity. A lot of people have taken advantage of it. But for the people who are just checking this video out for the first time, I want to make sure you are aware of it. And what bet are you going to use? Hopefully, it's this one. We're going back to baseball because we've been on a really good stretch here. We're going to the Dodgers in that first five. I'm sticking with the plan. We'll talk about the line and whatnot in a little bit, but let's do the routine that we do each and every time we do this video. So we've got the Twins on the road. Twins 57 and 51, 26 and 26 on the road. Pretty respectable. They are starting a road trip after 7 straight home games. I always love that angle. They're hitting the road for the first time in a little bit. They also have to play the Dodgers, which is never a good thing for any team because the Dodgers are 75 and 33, 38 and 15 at home. They've won 8 straight. They're continuing a homestand. They just swept the Padres. We were betting the Dodgers in that series. All good things with the Dodgers right now.
What's going on, everybody? Happy afternoon, happy evening. If you're an East Coaster, welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be talking through this massive MLB slate that we have before us on August 9th. Hit that like button. They did a good job. Josh usually does a good job of getting those likes up, but I think we can take them up even higher. Can it get much higher? Then I won't sing. That would be the other reason that you want to hit a like button. Josh, good work. But Greg Ehrenberg, that's He's my host, or my sidecar, my analyst, my side boy, if you will, my boy toy. Showing some chest with the shirt. Let's go.
Bobsled partner. By the way,
Bobsled.
I'm really trying to push this. The likes.
Move your mic. Move your mic.
Also,
move your mic.
Something very important. The likes are not because of Josh Engelman. They're because of Adam Scher. This has been established now. Josh has absolutely nothing to do with the likes. People only like the videos for Adam. And I don't think Adam's getting his due credit. So it's Adam who gets the credit for the likes. And also something else that we kind of let fall by the wayside, but Josh and I picked it back up yesterday. If you guys have questions in the Discord chat, add us. We could ask your questions. One of the benefits of being a subscriber to Stokastic.com is you get into our Discord channel. You could ask us questions during shows or whenever you want. So yesterday, were most of the questions baseball related? No, they were absolutely not, but it doesn't matter because we still appreciate them all the same. So if you guys have questions, at myself, at Eric in the Discord channel, we'll answer them during the show.
Hey, Greg, can you slowly move the mic to that side? Just slowly slide the mic that direction. Ooh, look at that, dude. There's a little hair just oh, man. That is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm wearing.
That's a real man over there.
A little bit of a fancier shirt today, and whatever. I don't need to get into my personal life, but we've got a baseball show today.
Can it get much higher? Let's go. The anthem of this show. Greg Ehrenberg just out here doing the 70s porn thing, because why wouldn't he? We've got Cyber Real Estate with a $10 super chat to start off the show. That's a good way to kind of segue into things that matter here. Oh, hang on. Slav Riddle. Less than salary line cut. What am I reading right now?
All right. So first of all, the riddle has been solved. It's supposed to be Solve Riddle, not Slav Riddle. So we're off to a good start with solving the riddle.
Good work. Good work.
Salary lineup: catcher 5,200, first base 5,300, second base 5,400, third base 5,500. Boy, he's playing
salary list baseball.
He's playing salary. Yeah, no salary. In his
salary less.
Well,
it's a weird word to say.
Here's the
everybody behind this. You are all at home. You're at work. You're in your car. Say salary-less. It is impossible. That's
salary-less.
Not. Okay, that was better. Cool.
You go again.
You're better than me. Celery. I keep saying celery now. Salary-less. There we go. Better.
All right.
I'm also watching Kyrgios play tennis in the corner because why wouldn't I?
I'm going to use our top batters tool to answer his question, because that seems the most reasonable way to do it. It's just based on our projections, which player at each position has the best chance of being the top scorer, because I don't know how else I would answer this. So
okay,
he's trying to build a lineup with 0 salary restraints. And then I guess in hindsight, you brag about how many fantasy points it scored. So at catcher, oh, you know what this is going to be? This is going to be a shit ton of Braves hitters. At catcher, the number one player that we have is William Contreras. No surprises there. Going up against Rich Hill at Coors Field. First base is never mind. It's not the Braves. It's the Cardinals at Coors Field. That's what I meant. It's going to be a lot of Cardinals. So Cardinals at first base, Paul Goldschmidt. No surprise there. If you have, because he actually did give he said first base has to be no more than 5,300, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
It's weird.
So I'm struggling to solve the riddle, to be honest. All right. So
I don't understand.
Okay. So he just wants whoever is expected to score the most fantasy, that has the most upside at each thing. I don't know exactly. He's asking me to solve a riddle. This is how I'm solving the riddle. Perhaps you have a different way to answer this question.
Wait, catcher. What's the 5,200? There's only one catcher.
Somebody 5,200 or less.
Okay. Well, Will Smith, if you are playing salary list baseball, he's going to be low owned. So there you go. And I like the Dodgers. So that's cool. First base, 5,300 and under. Matt Olson, left on left. Nobody likes to do that. I like to do that in those situations. He's still plus 310 to hit a home run on DK Sportsbook. And if you use the top batters tool here at Stokastic, Yahtzee, second base, 5,400. If you're just playing salary list baseball,
base, by the way, I'm going Rizzo at first base.
Okay. Well, I hope Rizzo's in the lineup because I had a bunch of him yesterday. I just moved it to DJ LeMahieu. And if Matt Carpenter doesn't get hurt, I take down everything yesterday. I had that 0 in like half my lineups. It was so painful because I was so heavy on the Yankees. Let's see. Second base, 5,400. God, we're just going down the line here. Ketel Marte seems like he makes sense against Thompson, but I don't know. You could probably go just about
here's how we're going
anywhere.
to speed this up. You do second base. I'm going to do shortstop. You do third base. Then we'll alternate outfield.
All right.
And I think
third base, 5,600. Go up $100 to Arenado. Otherwise, it's Austin Riley, 5,300.
All right, 5,600 for shortstop.
Atlanta.
Give me Willy Adames. We did third base, and now outfield.
5,700. Huge drop off. Acuna's the guy that's popping up the most for me. And then, yes, Byron Buxton is plus 240 to a home run on Urias today. He's going to be super low owned, and you never get one of the best players in baseball. This kind of ownership, 9th inning bump. So Byron Buxton.
All right. Yelich is going to be my final answer. Cool. And now I've got some questions, quick overview questions. Do you have the Discord pulled up? If not, I'll answer the question.
No, you go ahead.
All right. With so much pitching on the slate, are you capping starting pitchers like 30 or 35% on Fantasy Cruncher? I am not. Are you?
I'm not, but I don't have anybody over 45% today, just by default.
Would you see any viability in playing all the St. Louis Cardinals in the 50-cent mini max and then fading them in the $1 mini max? So you'd just be playing like 50% Cardinals? No, that's way too much for me.
I have close to that. I'm playing a really low-owned pitcher that nobody's playing, and I don't know why nobody's playing him. So that's going to be my key to today. I have a 7K pitcher that I just have an ungodly amount of, that if he plays well, if he does what I think he's capable of doing in this spot, I'm going to be able to get to the Cardinals and feel pretty good about it. I think Shane Bieber and Shohei Ohtani are my two favorite pitchers on the slate, but this guy is probably third and he's like 3% owned. So that's cool.
All right. So can I guess who the pitcher is?
If you want to.
All right. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to see who's 3% owned at pitcher.
That's not fun. That's not the way the game's supposed to be.
Oh, well, there's nobody who's 3% owned. So this actually.
Well, he's actually under 1% on the updated one. He was at 3% a second ago.
Is it one of my guys? Is it Charlie Morton?
It's not Charlie Morton, but I do have way above the field Charlie Morton. I have like 11% of him.
All right, so let's talk about pitchers then, because I want to know who this contrarian guy is.
We'll get there. I think we'll finish that up here. Jordan Klein just sent me a screenshot of something. Let's hope it's normal. It is. It's just a super chat, right? Is that what this is? Cool. The app is Jock Market. You can have all the top players. Cyber real estate, Jock Market. That's where it is. That's where we should be going. That's cool.
All right, so that makes sense then.
The sea is silent. Cool. Shall we talk some baseball? Let's talk the top end of pitcher. There's 3 10K guys for DraftKings purposes. Garrett Cole, Zach Wheeler, Shohei Ohtani. Rank them for tournaments.
Shohei. And by the way, also, I should point out that currently our ownership projections, no difference between these 3 guys. They're all projected very, very similarly in terms of ownership. Ohtani, Wheeler, Cole are all 26 to 29%. So I'm just doing it based on who I feel the best about to score the most fantasy points. I don't think I have to weigh ownership too heavily because we have that all projected more or less the same. So Ohtani 1, Wheeler 2, Garrett Cole 3. Reverse order of pricing.
Terry got my pitcher, so that's cool. Reverse order of pricing, yes. I'm Shohei Ohtani is like by far number 1 for me. He gets the athletics, best ballpark you could pitch in, 6.5 total. Both offenses, I mean, Zach Wheeler gets to face Miami. That's fun too, but 70% expected win percentage there for that one as well. I got to go through an implied odds discussion again today on Lindy's leads, likes, and locks because people apparently don't like the fact that I said bet the Reds today when they're plus 265, but such is life. We move on with our day. We're talking pitching at the top end for fantasy purposes. Ohtani 1, Cole 2, just for strikeout upside, and Wheeler 3.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I wouldn't be like at first glance, I'm like, why is Ohtani not picking up crazy ownership? He did just pitch against the A's and struggle a little bit, so that might be something that keeps in people's mind coming into today. Remember, we had that Ohtani slate the other day where he was like 80% owned and he kind of sucked relative to the other pitchings on this slate and relative to expectations. So maybe that will limit his ownership a little bit, but I mean, he's my top guy.
Yeah, he's my go us. Go you. You're smart.
I don't know if that's true, but I'm playing Ohtani today.
Okay.
Whether it's right or not.
I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Yeah, the room you're in right now.
Such a dick. Let's go to the 9K range here. And this is where Shane Bieber, he jumps up to the top of my board in this 9K range. He's my highest owned pitcher right now. I have a little bit more of him. As I said, Coors Field, getting to Goldschmidt, getting to Arenado. You're not exactly getting them for free today for DraftKings, even FanDuel. Did FanDuel do some things with pricing to make me want to go play over there today? Not really. I mean, looking at some of the pitching stuff, I'm glad that you have to pay 11.2 for Ohtani, 10.9 for Cole, 10.8 for Manoah. That's hilarious. Freddie Peralta, nope. Luis Castillo, nope. But Shane Bieber, 10.2 over there. Pretty popular, 12.4% even for FanDuel purposes. But I think he's my favorite pitcher to be getting to on either side. How about you?
Not for me. I just worry a little bit about the upside of Bieber compared to the other pitchers. Not to say, obviously, he's going up against the Tigers. It's a fantastic spot, but by and large part, the strikeouts just haven't been there for Bieber this year. He does have a solid ERA, solid expected ERA. The peripheral stats are all good. Not as good as it's been in previous years, 3.39 ERA, 3.54 expected ERA. But his strikeout rate in the last 3 years has dipped from 41% 2 years ago when he won the Cy Young, 33% last year, and then 25% this year. Clearly, it's a great matchup against the Detroit Tigers. But at the same time, too, it's not like he's been some guy who's had these crazy high strikeout performances. He does have 2 starts this year where he struck out double-digit hitters. One of them came against the Tigers, but in his other 2 starts against the Tigers, he did strike out 5 and 6 hitters. And one of them, they really, really hit him hard. That doesn't really mean all that much other than to say, like, I don't think just because of this matchup, Bieber is guaranteed to have a great start. And I don't think that the salary savings are enough for me to want to play him over the likes of Ohtani, Wheeler, and Cole. So he'd be my 4th option of those guys.
Interesting. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay if he's 4th on your board. It would just be weird to me if he wasn't a top 5 pitcher option for everybody today.
Yeah, I haven't really been super high on Bieber in general this year. Okay. I haven't played a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I haven't been that high on him either, but when you go up against Detroit as a right-handed pitcher, kind of everything changes.
Yeah, no, it's clearly a really good matchup. But once again, so he's been really steady with just not that much upside. And even, his last start against the Tigers, 5 2/3 innings, 5 runs, 6 strikeouts. So I think he's very, very safe today. I just don't view him as having the same upside as the pitchers who are $1,000 more.
Okay. Well, let's kind of work our way down the board. Joe Musgrove was somebody that at the tail end of that last show, the boys talked about Joe Musgrove getting over the field on 6%. I have some concerns with Joe Musgrove. Last 2 starts, lost 1.5 miles on his fastball. Doesn't seem to have the same kind of stuff. It was an afternoon game in San Diego. He gave up 6 earned runs to the Colorado Rockies. Like, it's one of those things where you have bad days, but seems like he's basically had 3 dud starts in his last 4. The velocity's down. I'm concerned about him going up against San Francisco here. From a betting perspective, San Francisco, I'm just all about it today, I guess. But I don't know if I'm going to necessarily get to a ton of bats on the other side of it. I'm trying to temper down some expectations for it. But is Joe Musgrove somebody you're landing on at all?
No, not really. But I don't share any kind of crazy concerns about him. Okay. Really, the biggest issue that I have when it comes to Joe Musgrove is that there are a lot of really good high-end pitchers on this slate, and I can't roster all of them. And I don't love the matchup he has against the Giants. The Giants, and we've talked about them a bunch, this is a pain in the ass of a team. It's great when they don't have an easy matchup because I don't like playing them when they have easy matchups because of all the pinch hitting nonsense that goes on. But Joe Musgrove's 10% owned, which, it's not some crazy amount of ownership. But at the same time, too, there's not a whole bunch of ownership going to Ohtani, Wheeler, Cole, or Bieber, who we just talked about. So while they are a little bit more popular than Musgrove, I don't think the ownership gap is so great that I need to get to Musgrove, who I just view as being a weaker option than those guys. And I'm looking through some of his velocity stuff. Like you said, let's see, what do we have from the fastball? It's kind of weird because his fastball velocity averaged 92.5 in the last start, so down a little bit for the season. Yeah. Earlier in the year, he was throwing about this velocity also. And then it looks like it peaked in May and June, where he was throwing like 93.5 to up like high 93 miles per hour. And now it's come down a little bit. It's 1 start. I'm not going to be too concerned about it.
Okay. It's just something to keep an eye on. Second half fatigue. And didn't you talk about that a little bit on the show after us yesterday?
Yep, Alex Wood, who's done it his entire career, and then he was lights out yesterday, and it did not matter.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, he was really good yesterday.
Well, I mean, do you want to just jump to my hot take? Is that what we're gonna do?
Oh, we could. I'm kind of curious though, just to see if there's any splits for Joe Musgrove first half versus second half of the season for his career. Let's see.
Then do you do the Humpty Hump? How about no, Scott?
Almost the exact same numbers for him the first and second half of the season for his career. 3.83 FIP in the first half, 3.69 in the second half, 23.3% K rate in the first half of the season, 24.3. So not a pitcher that historically has tailed off in the second half of the year. So I'm okay with writing off the last start to not being anything other than a blip on the radar. But with that said, other pitchers I prefer anyway.
All right, here we go. Mike Campbell. Yeah, I loved having Giants plus 160 yesterday. Me too. I bet them then. I'm betting them again today. Alex Cobb is the guy that I am landing on a ton. He is 7K. And I get it. This is a San Diego offense that you just got Juan Soto, Josh Bell, and Brandon Drury added to. Not only are those guys really, really good, but Josh Bell and Juan Soto do not strike out. Less than a 15% K percentage into the mix there. But my thing is Alex Cobb has been one of the unluckiest pitchers that humanity has ever really seen in terms of this season. His advanced metrics are just fantastic. He has an ERA over 4, but yet sub 2.8 expected ERA. I mean, this is kind of outrageous what we're seeing. And I got to think that eventually this regresses towards the mean and you start seeing him start to get some of the breaks. But with a 262 ex-WOBA and a 25% K percentage, I just feel pretty confident that he's a guy that is going way under-owned for his talent. He's 7K flat. And that is just abhorrent to me. I have to be getting to him over top of this number. Is it a very difficult matchup? It absolutely is. But there are not a lot of guys that I feel that great about. Marcus Stroman's pulling 12% against Washington. Good pitching conditions, easy matchup. I totally get it if you want to go there. But James Caprillion is getting ownership. We're seeing, people are talking about possibly landing on like a Tommy Henry. What are we doing here? I just think Alex Cobb is like the cheapest guy that I want to get to. I'd rather click on him than Urquidy. I'd rather click on him than Stroman. Am I missing something here? He's just an 8 or a 9K pitcher that I'm getting at 7K.
Yeah, so I think what you're missing is that the salary savings aren't necessary. So I agree with you, though. In terms of Alex Cobb this year as a pitcher, so there's a couple things that stand out. First, to what you said before, he's been really unlucky. 60.6% strand rate, 32.4 per 324 BABIP, both things that I think should come down. And that's why his ERA is so much higher than his expected ERA, his FIP, all the underlying stats. Something else that really stands out with Alex Cobb, his average fastball velocity is a career high 95.2 miles per hour. His average velocity for his career is 91.8. So what does that say to me? He's healthy. When has Alex Cobb ever been healthy? Basically never. And he's finally healthy right now. And the underlying numbers suggest he is pitching really, really well. Here's actually something I bet Alex Cobb over strikeouts. Over 4.5 is pretty significant plus money. It's like plus 130 or something like that. So that's something that I also think makes sense. I don't think the salary savings are necessary for Cobb, depending on who you're playing at offense. If it seems like Eric is really heavily jamming the Cardinals, in that case, sure, you're getting a contrarian pitcher. He's cheap. You can pay up for all the offenses you want. I don't think it's totally necessary, just the way that the pricing has worked on FanDuel and DK as of late. But does he present good upside at a cheap salary at no ownership? Yeah, for sure. And then once again, I bet the over on strikeouts prop.
Yeah, love the Cobb call, but Padres don't strike out. I was talking about how they don't, but he could go 6. He's gone over 6 innings now in 3 of his last 4. He's stretched out. He's healthy. He's throwing hard. I just like him as a pitcher. And I think that the salary savings just give me opportunities to get a little bit different here. And if I can find, you bet over 4.5 there. If I can find 5 or 6 strikeouts out of him in 6 innings and he can just avoid the long Soto bomb or Bell bomb or Machado bomb, I think there's a chance for success there. So it's just a risk that I'm willing to take at his current ownership, which is none. He has no ownership. So there you go. Also, Sean V said that Cobb is a horrible play. Do you want to amend anything that you just said, Greg?
No, I bet the over on Cobb strikeout props. I will say that Sean V probably had the funniest fail ever yesterday. And I'll bring this up only because I know that Sean V could take the hits. And when he's right, he's also going to come in chat. So yesterday, somebody had asked about cash game plays, and Josh and I were talking about which players from the Mets you want to have in a cash game. And I had said that you need to play Starling Marte in cash on DraftKings just based on what his ownership was. And if I'm not mistaken, Sean had said that awful play, like one of the worst plays on the slate, and Marte homers on like the
and a stolen base
of the game, and then ends up being like the highest scorer on the slate. So all that, Sean's going to be right sometimes too. Like, watch, if Alex Cobb gets lit up, Sean is going to be the first person in chat tomorrow to say that Alex Cobb was not good. But for the purpose of today, I feel just fine about getting pretty significant plus money on Alex Cobb over 4.5 strikeouts. And I think you should feel decent enough about your ownership of him in DFS as well.
Look at you coming in, giving me a pat on the back. T McBee also said he's with me. That makes me feel good. T McBee wins all the FanDuel dollars. So that's cool. Deacon 2, the legend, $4.99. What do you guys think about Charlie Morton and a good strikeout matchup? Oh, look, the next guy that I had circled to talk about, because this is Greg Ehrenberg's boy. I would never take claim over him. Completely unowned, not the best game environment. It's hot. It's humid. Ball should be flying against Boston, but can he miss enough bats from time to time to be viable? I certainly think so. More so than less than 1% of ownership. Are you in on Charlie Morton today, Greg?
Yeah, so I think he's a good contrarian pitching option to pay up for just based on the strikeout upside. He has his blow-up starts. There's obvious downside when it comes to him, but he's at 27.2% K rate. And you see some of these starts from Charlie Morton where, whether it's wind, whether it's hitting conditions, it doesn't matter if you're generating swing and misses. And that's what Morton does from time to time. Does he do it every start? No, absolutely not. But like last start, he pitched against the Phillies, 6 2/3 shutout innings, has 8 strikeouts. Start before that, also against the Phillies, got his ass kicked. So the sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit really does apply to Charlie Morton, but that's kind of the ideal GPP play if you're trying to differentiate a pitcher. So I do think he's somebody that makes sense. We've seen a handful of double-digit strikeout games from him this year. He has that kind of upside. So I think that just based on the ceiling, he is worth playing for low ownership in tournaments.
Get us to 300 likes. I'll ban Sean V. Just get us to 300 likes anyway. That would be nice. We're having fun. We're having fun over here at Stokastic as we're talking pitcher. We're moving down the line. I mean, it's a massive slate. We're going to get to stacks. We'll talk about him. Luis Castillo, I get it because he's really, really good. You're not going to have Matt Carpenter. You have a chance of having no Anthony Rizzo. I do want to see that Yankees lineup before I start saying I want to play some Luis Castillo. We might get some kind of a poor man's version of the Yankees lineup. We shall see. But I'm not really getting to like 11% of him. That doesn't really make sense to me. I would rather go to Urias against Minnesota here in LA, sub 5%, rather than play the Castillo as it currently stands. But any other pitcher at 8 or 9K that you find yourself getting to shares of?
Can you believe that Matt Carpenter matters at this point in his career?
Huge. He had like a over 600 expected slugging, and against righties, he was just murdering humans.
So the other thing too, though, is he's been so bad for a while now. And all of a sudden then this year, he's got a 216 WRC plus with the Yankees. In 47 games, he's produced 2.5 wins above replacement. So, I mean, you're looking at somebody who is legitimately on pace to be like an MVP candidate if he was to extrapolate this over the course of an entire season. Now, the odds of him doing that would be slim to none, mostly because number one, I don't think he could stay healthy at this point in his career. And then number two, also, it's hard to totally buy into this level of production at this age and the recent struggles. It's been, let's see, when was the last time that he was even an above average hitter before this year? It was
been a long time.
2018. So yeah, it's been a minute. But now with that said, it doesn't really matter for the slate because he's not playing today, other than the fact that does it boost up Luis Castillo to an extent, but I'm still not really looking to pick on the Yankees offense. Maybe if Rizzo's also out and then there's one or two other regular starters that aren't there, it's a less potent lineup than usual. But it's still, to me, just better teams that we could roster pitchers against than Luis Castillo against the Yankees, especially when Castillo is actually expected to have ownership.
Agreed. There we go. My God, it really does matter. But I just saw the Seattle lineup and my brain exploded because Jake Lamb is batting cleanup. And musical chairs for some players this time of year, that's for sure. Him being one of them. Nice to get picked up by a team that's actually contending for stuff. So that's cool. Carlos Carrasco, I get the ownership. Like I get why people are targeting in on him, but I don't know. Is he somebody that I find to be all that enthusiastic? Not really. I would rather pay up for some of the other pitchers or get down to my boy Cobb. I don't know if I prefer Stroman or Urquidy over him at their given ownerships, but any Carlos Carrasco love for you?
No, and he's, by the way, something I just realized is funny that happens in the YouTube chat is we had somebody who's trying to send a message at Butthole, but just the word Butthole gets automatically muted by the YouTube chat. So if anybody is looking to message Butthole Jenkins, maybe do like B Jenkins or something, because or else the YouTube algorithm has decided that is a naughty word which shall not be said for whatever reason. I don't know why butthole. It's not even a real.
Greg, use common sense. I think I know why it's muted.
No, but
butt and hoe. It's not even just.
But it's not.
But
it's not spelled that way.
I know, but it's butt hoe, and then they think hoe, and then butt, and then you got hoe butt hoe.
Yeah. No, it doesn't let you say. It doesn't let you say butthole. Shouldn't it be?
Maybe for my bunghole. Want to see? Yeah. Those were great days. Oh yeah.
When's the last time you watched Beavis and Butthead?
I went to the Beavis and Butthead Paramount Plus premiere. My wife, she wasn't in charge of that one, but she was helping run it. I went to that like 2 months ago. Honey, when was the Beavis and Butthead premiere? Month ago. There we go. I was there a month ago. Thank you.
I guess you can't answer that. Honestly.
It was fantastic. It was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I'm also like a 90s kid. Beavis and Butthead was hilarious.
So number one, I think it's one of your better impressions.
Really? I just pulled it out of the hat there.
Yeah. Number one, I think that's solid.
TV for my bunghole. Want to see?
Point two. I didn't really watch a lot of Beavis and Butthead when I was a kid. You're a little bit older than me, and I think that age gap.
That year and a half age gap between you and me.
What are you kidding? You're 9 years older than me.
I knew what you did. It always comes back around to this.
I'm 31 years old and you're 40. That's 9 years.
All right, let's just keep talking baseball, please. We got so much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? Well, don't take the back streets. When it comes to Reds Mets,
was that a butthole?
Delayed,
was that a butthole reference?
No, that was, hey, now you're an all-star. Get your game on Go Play. But Go Play at Underdog and use Puppy3 as the promo code while you're at it. The best ball contest will be filling here very soon for the 2022 NFL season. You want to take advantage of that dollar. This is the last day. Puppy3 best ball code. Take advantage of it. That's all I got for you.
Go sign up. You got the how many have you done more best ball drafts since we talked last?
A lot. I've done a lot of DK ones. Like I maxed out the 4. I've probably done 40 on the $5. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to max it out because I don't know. Lindy's leans, lacks, and likes. Lots of work. Right, Jordan Klein? Nope.
Yeah. It's
your favorite piece of production here at Stokastic.com.
Just the hard. Jordan wants to hear nothing to do with that anymore. He's just haunted. But I just curiosity. Who are some of your most exposed players in best ball this year?
Marquez Valdes-Scantling is definitely one of them. Like by a drastic margin. Drake London is a guy that I'm landing in a lot. Chris Olave. So I'm getting to a lot of these rookie wide receivers in the back end, like the 4th, 5th, 6th round. I keep landing on them. And then there's a lot of running backs that I just really hope find a home. Raheem Mostert, I hope, can take over the Miami backfield, which I think is pretty wide open. You're getting at a pretty cheap ADP. I like getting to Devin Singletary is like at 100 right now. And it's still like, I don't know, James Cook's going to cut in for some passing production, but I don't see Zach Moss still being like the short yardage back. They keep talking about reports of him being somebody who can take it over. Devin Singletary looked pretty damn good to me in the postseason. And if he carries over that form, I do expect him to be kind of a steal in like the 6th, 7th round where he's been going here of late. So those are some of my main guys. Of course, the first 2 rounds, I keep getting Travis Kelce, trying to put together as many Kansas City, Denver stacks as I can for week 17. But that's just me. How about you, Greg Ehrenberg?
I've done 0 best ball drafts.
Good talk. So you just let me talk there. That was great.
No, I was trying to tie it into the ad read, but I do not really enjoy best ball much. For me personally, I did a ton for NBA the last couple of seasons just because there's been overlay. If there's overlay for football, I'll do it. But we'll I was just laughing at something Sotex put in the chat there. But any concern for you with MVS, the reports coming out that he apparently cannot catch balls in practice?
No, none.
People said that about Jamar Chase last year. It didn't really matter.
It wouldn't matter at this point too, because I've been drafting him for like 2 months. So like if he's just dropping balls now, it doesn't matter. I still have 60. Like I've never had this much exposure to a single player in best ball before.
Oh my God. All right, Sean V, let me know what you think about that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the weather.
I tried so hard.
Did you see the Mets game?
I did. I brought that up. Yeah, Reds Mets delayed due to inclement weather. That's not ideal. Also, there was an NFL trade. Adam Shaheen, cool Shaheen. Doesn't matter at all. Good talk. Glad we had it. Lots to get to here. But yeah, this Mets-Reds situation, I can't imagine that it's going to matter to me. I think they're going to play eventually here. Just delay it now and then play the game. I can't imagine that it's going to be lingering. Let me pull up New York.
And then the other game too, because we had Lucky message us in Discord and he asked us, are we concerned about Wheeler with the current weather situation? So the weather is not ideal in Pittsburgh right now. And it is something I have my eye on. The Mets game isn't going to change anything for me. We're going to talk about stacks in a second. I really like the Mets as a stack. But let's pull up the weather for Philadelphia and see where it's at now, because I know that was a little bit of a concern earlier. Philadelphia. All right. It's out there.
Philadelphia freedom.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about this. I'm looking at the weather report right now. There's a chance of light rain towards the start of the game. Doesn't seem to be anything problematic. It's not going to change my ownership when it comes to Zach Wheeler at all.
Okay, good. I'm still going to have, 15% of him? That's kind of what I'm landing in. He's fallen by the wayside to Ohtani. That is for damn sure.
Which I could, if you want to take a stand on Ohtani, I have no issue with that whatsoever.
I don't want to stand on him. Doesn't seem very polite.
Right, Eric.
Just saying. It's a point. Let's continue on, shall we? Any other pitchers we haven't talked about? Any super cheapies? Because there is Caprillion, which, is obviously now Sean V's boys. So maybe I need to find a new bet that isn't as fun as what it was before. Like have just say the name James Caprillion like a normal person. There's this Tommy Henry character who comes out of AAA, over a 20% strikeout rate in AAA. But he pitched in the PCL. That's always something that you like to pay attention to because it's really hard to pitch in the PCL. He had an ERA under 4 at it. So well done there. Pittsburgh sucks. So maybe get to some shares of him. Any cheapie that you want to get to?
So any real cheap pitcher, I've found cheap pitching to be mostly unnecessary for MLB DFS as of late. I know we've got Stroman, fairly popular, 13%. His strikeouts are up a little bit this year, but not anything that is going to make me, want to roster him. I think you can make a case for Tommy Henry just because he's so cheap and he has a favorable matchup against the Pittsburgh Pirates. But once again, I think that it's mostly unnecessary to get to some of these pitchers for cheap because I'm stacking the offense I like, and we're going to talk about offenses in a second. My favorite stack today is not a cheap one, and it fits very easily with the most expensive pitchers on the slate.
Well, look at that. It's expensive too. Oh,
yeah,
I'm intrigued. Save that one. Keep it in the chamber. We're finishing pitching discussion, but I really have nothing else at pitcher. I think we've literally talked about everything. I told you the one guy that I'm just getting super different with that I don't understand Alex Cobb's ownership, and I don't understand it. I don't want to play Joe Ryan in a million years against the Dodgers. Dude just gave up 10 runs to the Padres. Not ideal. Yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything. Tommy Henry, I do have a couple shares of, but I'm not going to get to like 7% of him.
No, it's hard. It's hard to know what to expect sometimes out of some of these, young pitchers with no real experience. Also, an unranked prospect. He's 25 years old. These guys generally end up being kind of shitty. His minor league numbers aren't great, but he's so cheap on DK and he's pitching against the Pirates. I think it's once again kind of unnecessary, but if you need to pick a pitcher to play for cheap for whatever reason, he's serviceable.
We've got T McBee saying it looks like more of a pop-up passing shower type of thing. That's what it kind of looks like to me. The coverage isn't very large. Looking at radar. I love having Mr. Coffee while I look at Mr. Radar. That's for sure. Always good to throw in some space balls. And Rinpack, Tommy Henry, shout out to Michigan. Apparently he's a Michigan alum. We got to change everything we know, play a ton of him. No, we don't.
Yeah, I mean, now I kind of want to, now it's like, stack against him because it would upset Ryan for some reason. So that's kind of appeling. But
Ryan's just upset all the time anyway. We need Ryan to smile more. I need him to participate in the group chat in a fun and friendly way. That's what I need from you, Rinpack. I need you to bring your positive energy and positive vibes into the group chat rather than, oh no, this thing happened and this is bad.
When Ryan's going to be happier when basketball comes back.
Oh, so true. I'll be happier when NBA comes back. That's by far my favorite. Everybody knows that.
That'll bring Ryan back to life.
Milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. You know what else does? oddshopper.com. That's where you want to go for all of your best bets, fam. oddshopper.com is where I could find some props in literally, it says 30 seconds on the page. I don't even 30 seconds. I'm already on it. There you go. We can look at the best bets that exist on the board instantly. You can put those into play at the sportsbook that it has in the bottom left corner, showing you the best bet for every prop you could possibly imagine. No matter that you could group it by team, you could group it by game, you can group it by which type of bet that it is. You can just go to the MLB player props and boom, tough actin' Tinactin. You have the opportunity to bet Jared Walsh, 42% expected ROI over at the book in the bottom left corner there, a 19% expected win percentage. Looks pretty good to me. Ty France at plus 850. These are gigantic numbers that are being posted for some of these home run props. if you can go bet them. Plus 490 for Jordan Alvarez. What planet am I on where that's a thing? Like, come on. Marlins Phillies also going to be delayed due to rain. Holy mother of God. Lots of things to be paying attention to now on the weather front. But Greg, I need to know, the people need to know, what is your favorite bet on the Odd Chopper board for today?
All right, so I have to check the odds because I don't know what it is that has moved or stayed the same since we started. We talked about James Kaprielian, and I kind of like the under for his strikeouts because it's a really high number. It's set at 4.5, and it's plus money on the under. I think it's been something like 2 months since he had to start with 5 or more strikeouts. So just based on being plus money, that's one that makes sense. I bet it earlier in the day. I think it was at plus 125. It's plus 112 now, but that's still not a bad number. Let's see. Where is Alex Cobb at? You could bet Alex Cobb strikeouts over 3.5. How would you feel about that there?
Yeah, over it. Like way over it. Did you say over it? What?
Alex Cobb strikeout prop. It was 4.5. It's moved down to 3.5.
Oh yeah, we're gonna slam that. We're going to slam that into oblivion.
Over 3.5 strikeouts for Alex Cobb, I think, is sensible as well.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that. But yeah, Marlins Phillies delayed here. One of those things we got to pay attention to now here for sure. In terms of the home run board, who is your pick to dong today off of the Odd Chopper board? Did you bet any home run picks today?
Jared Walsh, mostly just as a fade on Kaprielian. Walsh has been awful lately, but he is the number one bet that we have overall there right now. So I think it makes sense. He's been good overall for the season. The last month or so has been fairly poor, but he still projects well for Zips and Steamer moving forward. I don't think Kaprielian is good at all. So I actually don't even mind making a same game parlay that's Kaprielian under strikeouts and Jared Walsh to hit a home run. I mean, that's probably like, I don't know, a 15-1 prop or something like that.
I'm interested. That's for sure. That's from Book of Mormon. You probably didn't pick up on that one. That was kind of
no. You just said I'm interested. That could be from anything.
No, but that the inflection, the way that you say it, it's not always what you say, Greg. It's how you say it.
Yeah, but it has to be something more specific than I'm interested.
All right. Well, I'm trying to decide what to do with my one. I put one entry in the 111 over on DK today while we're on this show, and I'm going to treat it a little bit more like a single entry because I've got it with my single entry stuff, and I'm just kind of deciding which stack I want to land on. But Greg, we're at that point in the show. The people need to know, who is your single entry team stack today for DK purposes?
So especially with the latest weather news, I really like getting to the Mets against Mike Minor because to me, the delay means nothing. Like it just means the game starts a little bit later. I don't think the game is going to get canceled. Could I end up being wrong? Maybe, but probably not. The weather doesn't look all that much of an issue. But Mike Minor this year has been not good at all as a pitcher. The Mets offense, one of the best overall in baseball. And there's a big ownership discount that we're getting on the Mets. Only around 5% ownership. We have them with 8% top stack odds, third highest on the slate. This year, Mike Minor, 6.19 ERA, 6.57 FIP, a 29.4% ground ball rate with a 17.4% home run to fly ball rate. That is absurd. Like how a pitcher could allow that many fly balls and that many balls in the air to be a home run at that kind of rate is just really crazy. So let me look at some of these game logs for him. Yeah, he is allowed at least one home run in every single start this year, Mike Minor. The only exception, this is a crazy start to have not allowed a homer. The only time this year Mike Minor has not allowed a home run in a start was on the road in Yankee Stadium. Other than that, he's given up at least one home run in every single start this season.
You could say that Minor has a major problem?
Oh, you could. I don't know what else to say.
Jordan Klein. You're so over me as a person. You're just like this dude. I take him out to go play golf. He just cleans my pocket. You know, it's not very nice of him. Just cleans my clock.
He beat you pretty good at golf.
No, that's not correct.
Oh, so then how do you? I did. Eric posted it online. Jordan shot.
Jordan posted it online.
Oh, Jordan posted. You shot. Jordan? You shot 83, right?
Eric, do not act like you weren't begging me to tweet that.
I was not begging you. I did not. I didn't do anything. Just I shot a respectable 65, quick little 7 under. What am I supposed to do? You saw every single shot. You were, I don't know. And here's the thing. It should have been about a 61, 62. Let's be serious. Should have been. I'm okay at golf. There's that. Humble brag.
I mean, it wasn't humble.
No, man, I won't be.
You're just like, I shot a really good score. I'm pretty good at golf. Humble brag. Like, what's the humble aspect of it?
Brag.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk more stacks, shall we?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, we could also just talk about how I'm really good at golf too, if you want to do that.
Sure, you got clubs behind you. You could give some lessons, some virtual lessons, 15
Dude,
minutes
Guitar
lessons.
Man 247 just coming at me all the time. Yesterday decides you missed this. He posted my NBA or my not NBA, definitely not NBA. No, my South Dakota high school basketball stat lines into chat. And today he's coming at me saying like some rich kid, family loaded, whatever. I'm from South Dakota, small town. Like there's no such thing as being entitled from South Dakota. You kidding me? Work for everything you get, son.
Yeah, he's Eric was his whole family coal miners.
Not that. Just don't bring that smoke up in here. Yeah, see? There you go. Sioux Falls is small. Yeah, it's small. That's what I'm saying. I love South Dakota. I'm going back there on Thursday. See you all over there, friends. Going to be lovely. Going back.
Eric's family is just the family from Zoolander. small town family. They were the miners.
Just because we have chiseled abs and stunning features doesn't mean we too can't die in a freak gasoline fight accident.
That's one of the funniest lines in a movie ever.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty good. Merman. Merman. That's pretty good too. All right, back to stacks. We got plenty of time. Again, this is just a fun day. I mean, if you're having as much fun as we are, hit that like button. Over 300, and then Sean V gets banned. I think that's good enough reason to just smash that thing into oblivion. But we got to talk about it. It's Coors Field. It's St. Louis. I'm playing them. You said you're not. I think there's ways to put this stack together. Specifically, I just don't believe that everybody can play.
Whoa. I never said I'm not playing them. Somebody asked if they should play 50% of them, and I said that's
yeah, that's too much. But here's the thing. Wheeler, Cole, and then our boy Ohtani. And then you get this $9,600 or $9,400 Shane Bieber and Musgrove and all these expensive pitchers people want to play. I don't know how you land on all the Goldschmidt and all the land unless you find somebody like an Alex Cobb or a Marcus Stroman or somebody else on the board. And I'm more inclined to play Goldschmidt, Arenado as much as I possibly can on this slate and let everybody chase after me. Greg, what is your approach here with St. Louis today?
Yeah, so they're going to be popular, but it's not a kind of ownership that I think warrants fading them. It's not my go-to stack for single entry. They're going to be crazy popular in single entry, I believe, tonight. But for large field tournaments, we have them project for 22% ownership, 19% top stack odds. It's very rare on a slate of this size that I think any one team is worth being in, like a fourth of the field's lineups. But they are very clearly the team with the highest expected run output on the slate. They have a team total of nearly 7 runs for today, and no other team is even above 6. So if you ask me what team is going to be the highest scoring, what would be my best guess? The answer is going to be St. Louis. I just don't think they're worth being overweight to the field to relative to their current ownership. But I mean, it's still a stack that I think warrants being in, over 10% of anybody's lineups over the course of 150 or 20 or however many you play.
Yeah, the only Cardinal that I really don't have that much is Nizer Sose. The catcher there, Nizer Sose. That was a good bit. You didn't get that one. It went over your head. It's okay. Team McPhee's here. He's going to come save it.
I've been doing a lot of thinking about this.
Okay.
So the reason I don't get a lot of your references, it's because of the age gap.
So over you. I'm really over
but
this
that's
week. I'm eventually going to do 0 shows on Live Before Locks. I'm going to ask to do 3 VODs a day. I'm going to ask to just hit eject. No, these are not things I'm going to do. Yes, usual suspects. See everybody there. Also, Renpack, 100% St. Louis. Of course, you're playing 100% St. Louis, Ryan. You're Mr. All in on the best team every single day. And why wouldn't you do that? Seems like a good way to win.
I mean, the
money
reason to
eventually.
not do it would be because they're the number one negative leverage team in our top.
That might be the reason. That's also why we probably just put him we actually put him in a cryogenic freezer until NBA season, and then we remove Rinpack, and then he's ready to rock.
What's
Jordan? It's true. Been frozen for 30 years here. Greg is calling me old again. Yeah, see, these are not nice things. These are not nice things.
No. I mean, I'm not an ageist. I think that's fine. Like, I think you should be. Do you have any gray hairs yet?
Yeah, I have some gray hairs. I'm dying.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares?
Who cares? Cool.
By the way, also, sorry, one more thing about there's going to be a point in our industry where we're all so old and washed because everybody kind of started the same time, where it's a lot of guys who started coming up in this industry like late 20s, and now it's been like I've been doing shows for a few years. Lofty's been doing them forever. Emac's really been doing them forever. We've already seen him age out. But there's going to be a time where you guys want to tune into a DFS show, and it is going to be nothing but old guys on camera.
Well, I tell you, Sonny boy, if I were playing this slate 100 times, which I've done 1,000,000 times, I might decide to stack up the Cardinals.
Yeah. Did you take your teeth out for that?
I did. White Sox Royals game 2 now expected to start later. I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me. I get the Austin Powers stuff. There's been a lot of it today, Bean Dude. You're welcome. This has been your show. If you like that garbage that I keep throwing out there because I'm garbage, but we continue on other stacks for people to get to on today's slate. I like Atlanta. I also think that that's a team that I can avoid some of the negative leverage and find ways to get to some of the back half of the lineup because, hey, they still are really, really good going up against Rich Hill. Cubs are the team that I find it the hardest just because it's not a great hitting environment and not super cheap with some of these pieces. Like Nico Horner, it's not exactly like he's free. Ian Happ, Patrick Wisdom, these guys. I'm just looking at the Dodgers, and I keep going back to Joe Ryan here, and he's the quote-unquote ace here for the Minnesota Twins. Not anymore, Tyler Mahle probably, but Joe Ryan just gave up 10 earned runs here to the Padres. Do I think that that's going to be in the cards for him? Probably not. He's been serviceable for us, but the pitch count has been pretty darn low for him. It is hot as balls out here. Jordan, myself, we can confirm such things. I just think the Dodgers are a team that's going really slept on that I'm getting to a lot of. They're really expensive as well. Fits nicely with Cobb. Who's a team that you're finding yourself getting to a lot more of as well?
Yeah, so outside of the Mets, I agree with you. Whenever we could get a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees at really low ownership and they're not against an elite starting pitcher, it probably makes sense. And Joe Ryan, to what you said before, he got off to a really good start to the season, but it was a start that nobody was expecting at all. And now he's really started to regress in a pretty big way, and it's the Dodgers. So I think that they are a team for low ownership that makes some sense. To me, though, I am prioritizing the spend-up pitching a little bit more. So not a team that I'm necessarily really dying to get to, but a team that I also really like for very low ownership. Milwaukee Brewers are 1% owned today against Ryan Yarbrough. And that's a team there's a lot of power in the offense. And I know that they've really, really struggled as of late. Like I couldn't even believe some of these were like get swept by the Pirates with their best pitchers on the mound. Mm-hmm. And now they're facing, slightly better team, well, more than slightly better in the Tampa Bay Rays. Yeah. But still, Yarbrough has not been good this year. And he was terrible last year as well. Remember, there was the year where the Rays were really heavy on using openers and the long relievers. And Yarbrough, there was all these slates for DFS where like people were confused as to whether he was going to be pitching or not. And you could get him for like 1 or 2% ownership and he would just break slates. That guy doesn't exist anymore. He had a 5.11 ERA last year and a 4.45 expected ERA this year, 4.89 ERA, 4.81 expected ERA. So I just think this is a not good pitcher against an offense that has a lot of power in the lineup that's generally just getting slept on because, well, there's a lot of really good offense in really good spots today, but also because some of the recent struggles of the Brewers, which I don't put too much stock into. And Ryan Yarbrough has been as bad as any of the pitchers they faced lately, if not worse. So I think this is a good team to roster at 1% ownership.
All right. I'm coming back here to Philly. I'm a little bit worried about Philly. We've got 10 minutes left until lock here.
Yeah.
Are you looking at this radar right now?
Yeah, but it looks like it's going to stop raining in like an hour.
I'm not sure.
All right. Yeah, I've got the
wind finder
thing.
too, and then
yeah, look, see, we've got the little storm here. He's passing by. There he goes. Yeah, looks like it's gonna stop raining in like an hour or so.
Okay. Just wanted to double check. Again, there's a lot of money to be made, lots of big tournaments. The last thing I want are dead Zach Wheeler lineups when I'm not even on him. Like, I'm considering taking him out of my pool. Because really, I don't have a lot of Philadelphia here either way.
If you want to be totally risk averse, sure, you could pull him and there's other pitchers you can get to.
Right.
But I'm just really not like, I'm not as concerned as you are.
Okay. Just wanted to bring it up again because it's a pitcher that I'm not all that high on. I would find it impossible to believe that he's not going to be 20+% owned no matter what. So like,
I wouldn't be surprised if he's less than that.
Really? You think people are hitting eject like me?
Yeah, same as on like, I think there's going to be some people that get off the net stacks as well.
Son of a biscuit. This isn't very enjoyable figuring out what to do here.
It's the weather, sometimes right, sometimes wrong. I don't know. I just looked at the weather, and at least with the radar I looked at didn't seem like clearly if it's going to rain now.
Okay.
But I don't think it's going to rain all night there.
That was childish, Jordan Klein. That was childish.
What happened?
Ooh, he's doing D's nuts jokes. Even though you body slammed me with that once upon a time. So I probably still am feeling the after effects of that, which is why I'm so sensitive to it. Good Lord.
Yeah. So here's another thing too, is I don't know if you've taken notice of this, but something DraftKings and FanDuel have done a lot. If games go into a late start and they get canceled, they've been opening those games up to allow you to swap your players.
Oh, anyway. I know. I'm just saying it's just something I'm paying attention to because, I mean, obviously you have Ohtani, and if you can guarantee me that I can turn Wheeler into one of those two guys later, I really don't care. I don't have enough Philadelphia to really matter here. So it's more of just like, there's a billion other places to go on this slate. Do I want to deal with the one weather spot with the one pitcher and possibly get to play rake free if it does get canceled and people just don't swap out of it? Or do I just kind of ride with it? Because I was already under the field. Maybe I just take him out entirely.
Yeah, I want to go all rain now. I'm going Zach. I mean, this is already Zach Wheeler. I've got Zach Wheeler as the pitcher in my single entry lineup. I've got the Mets as my stack. Bring on the rain.
Let the rain fall down in my pine dreams. No,
I like how quickly you lost confidence in that.
I did lose confidence quickly.
You started off at a much higher octave. You got like 3 words in. You're like, no thanks.
Yeah, let's hit eject on that plan, Eric. Pretty dumb I am. Hit that like button, though, subscribe button, notification bell. We've got a couple minutes left here. We're going to go till the 05 because I think the weather just merits it, just in case something happens here. I don't want to leave you guys short. Kind of finish some of the analysis of some of these other teams to be getting to. Dodgers, I think it's pretty clear cut. I mean, this is going to be so revolved around St. Louis and finding ways to get to more of Goldschmidt, Arenado, because I just think that they're harder for people to combine with other stacks, some of the cheaper stacks. I do think getting to some Angels makes some sense today, going up against James Kaprielian. You talked about how bad they were, or about how bad he is. It's a great ballpark, only a 6.5 total, kind of ridiculous, but like pretty easy to see a path where a couple of those bats can work out as salary savings, more of like a secondary stack for me. Arizona is really, really popular. Don't really find myself landing on them. And then Colorado, just because it's always Coors Field, seems like nobody's really going there outside of I have a lot of this Montero character at 2,500 showing up in lineups, but anybody else that you really want to round it out with the bats discussion?
No, I think the Rockies are a good shout out because while Michaelis has been pretty solid this year, he doesn't exactly have the most favorable pitching profile for working at Coors Field, just as a guy who's really reliant on pitching to contact. 19.3% K rate, doesn't really generate walks either. It's just he's really dependent on generating soft contact. I hate to really look at a pitcher in Coors Field who's going to be a pitch to contact type guy. So yeah, from that standpoint, I do think the Rockies make sense as a contrarian stack.
All right. Rockies, rounding it out, Dodgers. The stack that you really want to have go nuts, the New York Mets. I think that can be done today a lot easier than what it was yesterday. A lot of crazy Mets ownership yesterday. That was wild.
Yeah, the Mets were very, very popular yesterday, which was why I had settled on going really heavy on the Padres against Alex Wood, who I was convinced was going to drop off in the second half of the season. And they did absolutely nothing.
Hey, if a man doesn't have a code, he has nothing. You had a code, and that's what matters. Your code lost you money, but whatever. Just
I don't even know if it's a code as much as like this is what I thought was going to happen and something else happened. There was really no code. I was just incorrect.
Yeah, the code was incorrect. Yeah, we'll put it that way. But guys, this is a lot of fun, just kind of covering through this. I'm paying attention to this Philadelphia situation, Mets situation, going back to that one as well. I feel a lot more confident in the Mets game than I do in Philly. Philly, I'm just doing this. We're just going to swap off Zach Wheeler. No, actually, you know what? I'm going to keep him in the $4. I'll keep him in all my $4 lineups. Screw it. I will not have him in my $15 ones. That's what I'm going to do. Done. I have 0 Zach Wheeler in that. That makes me feel better.
Yeah, I mean, it's also it's not hard to move Wheeler to a Garrett Cole or to a Shohei.
I just moved it to Ohtani. Yeah,
it's easy to do that. I'm just going to ride with him. If I get screwed, it wouldn't be the first time.
It would not be the first time. Laundry list of those fellas, but you know what? You send them over here to Daddy Lindquist. I'll take care of them for you. They don't make fun of my great boo-boo
everybody who's ever screwed me. I'll send them over to Eric. Phrasing. It's usually what happens. Jordan Klein now coming. Leaning in close. Well, he really just wants us to end the show.
Why did you hang on? Did your chair just sink into the abyss? Where did you go? Oh,
yeah. We get to the end of shows and Jordan becomes an alligator. We see nothing but the top of his head.
Dong picks again. We already talked about dong picks. We did that earlier, but I guess in terms of our lineups, go Nolan Arenado.
For me, Pete Alonso.
All right, look at us, chalky all chalkers. And if hey, for contrarian sake, Jock Peterson, clean up. Hi, how are you?
Please. Pete Alonso's projected for 5% ownership today. Does that make it? That's
beautiful. No, but I'm saying that like he's still plus 240 to hit a home run today or something like that.
Oh, I have no clue.
Oh no, I was going through home run odds earlier. I think it was like plus 240. Daddy Lindquist. Yeah, Josh plays DFS. Yeah, that me. It me. We're leaving. Whether Philadelphia final verdict, you say yes. I say question mark.
Yeah, it looked good when I just looked at the radar right now. Right. And I showed it to you guys too. We brought it up on screen. It was very interactive. All
right. Well, regardless, this was a lot of fun. Had an absolute blast. Hey, while we're getting out of here as well, I want to bring it up one more time because I'm not even sure if I did the first time, but it does matter. If you guys have thought about the tools and content here at Stokastic here, we got to get you guys MLB Live. Promo code MLB Live. That gets you 50% off your first week here. And amazing FedEx Cup stuff going. Tons of drama in the golf streets with the Live Golf Tour today. Courtroom of all things, up in San Jose, California. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check it out. Pretty incredible stuff. But you want to sign up for MLB Live? Yes, Lars Nootbaar. That'd be an amazing home run. But if you want to see all the best tools and content, free stuff behind the paywall every single day. I think the player projections, nope, it's PGA rankings for the PGA stuff. So that's all that is. You don't get the ownership projections. You don't get the player projections. Get MLB Live for that golf stuff. Get it for MLB every single day of the week that ends in Y. That would be all of them. Promo code MLB Live. Utilize that for 50% off your first week of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Greg, we must get out of here. I bid you adieu. Any final words for the people?
No, just if you haven't done already, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck today.
All right. He's Greg. He's got real nice man hair doing the thing. I'm Eric. I have nothing. Phrasing, Eric. Phrasing.